All right, welcome to the Focus Podcast number 52 with Loup.
Thanks for having me.
And we got the P silent, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, pleasure. It's I heard a lot about it. I saw a bunch of your episodes.
Thanks, man.
So it's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great having you as like the first official producer guest.
Oh, really?
But I've had guests here that are producers
as well
as MCs.
Right, like Ray Halo.
Yeah.
He produces as well. I remember watching EM Lord and Ray Halo speak, and shout out to Ray. I actually haven't seen him in a while, so it was nice to see him, talk about what he's doing and all of that. But yeah, it's an honor. Thanks. I
love how positive he is, man. He's just like if you want like a I don't want to say wellness coach, but somebody to boost you up. He's just like reassures you of like keep going, man.
Yeah, he lives up to his name. He is a ray of light.
Yeah, he's total ray of light, and big ups to him and EM.
Yeah,
that was funny, that episode that I had Earl come over, and I don't know, it's just a miscommunication, but he didn't ring the doorbell outside.
Oh,
so he waited out there, and I was like. That's why I always tell people to ring the doorbell, because I don't check the messages sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyways, we ended up not doing it that day.
Oh, gotcha.
And then we went out for dinner with Ray. And while we were at dinner, EM's like, "Why don't we do the episode?" I was like, "All right, well, I'm already set up.
Why not?
Let's fucking do it."
Honestly, being quick on your feet and like adaptable.
That's the best time to do it sometimes.
Yeah. It's really catching it kind of when it's fresh. Sometimes unplanned, you get some sort of raw element that you might not maybe get when you're like hyper planning everything. So that's amazing. It's
so
great.
How do you capture a beat when it's like in your mind, or do you sit at the desk and like whatever comes out?
It's a good question. The creative process is always evolving, right? It's not like there's a formula that I follow, but for example, in January I'm doing this challenge. It's I'm doing a beat every day. Mm-hmm. I'm on day 16 of doing a song every single day. Yeah. I missed maybe 2 of them, but just to flex that creative muscle, Yeah. The way I capture like a idea is usually starts with either a chord progression or maybe a sample that I really like, or a set of chords that I heard somewhere and I really was inspired by. But it always is born from inspiration. Like this feeling that I have to capture this idea, and this fear of losing it if I don't capture it like immediately.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed to be working with so many artists, like so many incredible talent in the city. So usually I draw from that energy. Usually I'm creating beats collaboratively. It's very rare that I'll just sit down and do my own thing and just like I personally haven't released my own music for 4 years. For a good reason. I'm like inspired by my surroundings, but the creative process, it's always kind of taking inspiration from life day to day, and just standing on the shoulders of giants like Kate Trinata, French Kiwi Juice, Tom Misch. Inspiration comes from many places. Yeah,
it's amazing you said that, because like I can totally relate as a writer and as a beat producer as well. And I started producing for an artist of mine, and as a friend of mine, he became an artist, and it was like you're immersed in that person. Like you're like you can't just like sit in another room and make some beats and like hand them off and say this might work for this person. It's like a co-collaboration of like how they're developing, and as they're developing, you're kind of feeding off that.
Exactly. I look at it like a conversation. Like you can't really talk to yourself. I mean, you could, right? Yeah. But it's that development, that resonance, that feedback, that back and forth, the influence from other artists. I always love incorporating that. I'm a musician before I was a producer. I was in bands since I was a kid. I'm an immigrant, right? I came from Mexico in 2003. And then I think I was maybe 10 years old when I picked up the guitar, and I just realized people gravitated more towards me when they saw, oh, you play guitar. It's like, oh, okay, it was easier to make friends, right?
Yeah.
So like communication has always been facilitated through music in my experience. So I always gathered inspiration from just like that resonance, like a conversation, that inspiration of like, me having something to say and then saying it in different ways other than just the words. Like music is universal. So yeah, the inspiration is it's abundant in the city. It's crazy.
Oh, like you took the words out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
That music is the universal language.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much like you can kind of feel it when you go somewhere new
Mm-hmm.
and kind of share your music with somebody
Mm-hmm.
because they'll take a look at you and they'll be like, oh, you can get the feeling of like they don't know what I'm gonna share with them yet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exciting because it's like you see people's reactions of like hearing your stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, like the transformation of people, like how that person talks to you after is amazing. 'Cause music is just like it instantly, you can actually feel it like break down these walls.
It's
of
funny.
like,
It's funny
of
that way.
conception, of misconception, and it's really fun. And especially playing like out of town, you're like, they don't know what to expect.
That's
they
right.
See you, and then you drop it on the mic, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
No, yeah, exactly. No, to your point, I realized this the first time very clearly when I went to Chicago. I had an old band called Neuro. I must have been 18, and they were all like mid-30s, 40s, and like they were classic rock. So they gave me an opportunity to tour with them in Chicago, Cleveland. We went to Montreal. We've played at the Horseshoe.
Wow.
And I remember very clearly, it was 2014, 11 years ago, which is crazy. It was 2014, and we were playing a gig, and then, like you said, the reactions, like the ice was broken, like people were buying us or just leaving drinks at the stage there. Like they were really vibing with it, No sweat. And I just realized how powerful that whole connection through music was, like we were the out of town guys from Toronto. But everyone, like we made so many friends, like in just that bar alone. Like we went to a bar afterwards, and like still to this day I follow a couple of those people that without music it would have just been a couple people in a room, but through the communication, the music, and all those walls being broken down, it's really cool to see the reaction of different places having different reactions. Me myself, I'm from Mexico, so there's a lot more like live music because like it's just the culture, but in general, like it's really interesting to see different places, different reactions, the culture, how it resonates with different types of music.
And also like I didn't realize this until I left Toronto and started performing in other places, how much I absorbed from Toronto. And I'm like almost music ambassador for Toronto, where you go, and everybody that's exposed to you, like they're seeing what you've soaked up in Toronto, and you're kind of interpreting it to them. And just like I was in London in this neighborhood, I can't remember where it was, but it was like one of those open mics that have been going on for a long time, and it was the last one in there. I just happened to be
in London,
in this London small pub, and I mentioned I was from Toronto, and it just resonated through the bar. They're like, "We love Toronto. It's like you're home," and it was just like instantly, just because I was from Toronto, and then I'd shared, one of my songs, which was about the G20, so it was very Toronto, and then they're like, "Oh man, thanks for sharing that," and that was like my way of saying this is what's going on in Toronto right now, and then I can interpret it musically for you to understand. No, it's amazing, the power of narrative that music carries, the storytelling aspect of it, like you can think about any sort of music from classical to rap. It's all kind of like sharing an experience or kind of telling a story in another medium other than like language or something symbolic or written. So it's really it's empowering to see. I mean, that's why I do it for a living, because it's empowering to see how
music moves people in crowds, and it moves people in mentalities and in movements. And I myself have been so blessed to be part of a community that is like so supportive of the music. And I mean, I make a living out of it, like, thank God, right?
Not many Canadian acts can say that.
It's hard, but because it's like so broad and diverse and abstract, subjective.
Yeah.
You know, and like music is like what is good music.
Yeah.
You know, like we can have a whole hour conversation just about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's the power is like whether we can agree or disagree on what's good or bad. It's what resonates with different people. That's the curious part to me. Like, oh, like, you know, when I meet someone, even if I'm on a date, for example, like one of the best conversations is like, what kind of music are you into? Because then you can kind of see, you know, if they're into a certain type of artist, you can kind of like have a couple of few assumptions over like what they like, what they already resonate with, you know?
Breaks down like the generic answers of,
you know,
like, getting to know somebody.
And it's just to the point being like the narrative of the subconscious messages that carry through music, or conscious sometimes, like a lot of, especially rap, it's very word based, so it's very like the message is very much broadcasted. So but sometimes, like, I used to sit in music class thinking about like, why is Mozart and Beethoven and Bach, why are these guys like 300-400 years later still so relevant, you know? And, you know, classical music, you just hear it, and if you're not appreciating it, it just sounds like violins, or like but then you sit down and you really digest it in a maybe with the help of a little weed or some psychedelics, and you really take in what they're trying to like evoke in another person hearing it. And if you can really tap into that, it's a beautiful experience, you know. The narrative.
Sorry, this thing's, I gotta, sorry.
No worries. Is it batteries?
Yeah, it's saying it's a battery thing, but it's being a dildo. I don't use it too often, so if it goes out, it's just the wide shot.
That's all right.
It's saying the memory is full, but I'm just gonna keep.
Not a problem.
Oh, this is what I'll do. I'll just edit, delete one. Working on the fly here.
Yeah, no stranger to that. That's the nature of this industry, isn't it? Just adapting.
Yeah, 100%.
All the time.
Well, let me ask you this: when did music come into your life? Kind of like, you said you grew up in Mexico, so it was always around you. Yeah. Which is cool. So it's like immersed in you. Yeah. And so somebody introduce you to something, or did you have a curiosity? It's just like, did you just, like you said, you picked up a guitar at a young age? Yeah.
I guess the moment, a quick brief history of me. Like I said, born in Mexico City. My mom's a dancer, like a dance teacher, and just like a creative, like she's a costume designer, and my dad's an actor and a voice actor. Oh, amazing. So 2 artists, you know.
In Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico, and then they had me, and then they had my brother, and then they decided to move to Canada. And the moment music came into my life as a foundation of me identifying so closely to music came when I learned how to play guitar. Because originally I just thought it was cool and something to do, you know, literally. Yeah. As a 10-year-old, I'm like, I'll try something. You know, my mom was trying to get me into some extracurricular activities. I was playing soccer and basketball. I'm not the tallest or the fastest, so it was always like, oh, okay, like this is just like something to do, something fun. But then the music, especially the guitar, I remember picking it up and learning a few songs. And then at 10 years old, I was in a group of friends and I started playing a few things. And I just like, to our earlier point, I saw the change of how they saw me. Because before I was just this barely able to speak English immigrant like kid he's like fresh into town. And there was always this wall, you know, like, you know, and kids, especially like when we're young, kids can be mean.
It's rough.
You know? So it was really cool to see the flip of how people perceived me and even how I perceived myself through just playing chords.
Yeah.
It's
weird, eh?
Yeah, just playing a few simple. I was playing like Danny California, I remember, with my friend Vincent at the time, and he's like, "Oh, I have a garage and a drum kit. Why don't you come by?" And then it just like it grew into like a little kind of like a garage band.
Yeah.
And then I was obsessed with that whole like paradigm shift of like, oh, people will see you and perceive you different or even understand you better if you communicate through frequency.
I think what you nailed it is like communicate. How can I communicate?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So then I was like obsessed with it, and then fast forward 2 or 3 years going into high school. I went to high school at Dundas West in Bloor, Bishop Morocco.
Yeah, I know. I had friends that went there like years ago.
Yeah, it's an art school.
Yeah.
Right. So it was my chance to reinvent myself, and I had a little bit of music class and theory already. So I kind of, with this, like, since you don't know anybody in high school, you have an opportunity to just be a new person. I went to all the music classes, all the art classes, and like staying in the lunchroom, just playing drums and playing bass, and then someone else notices and like, hey, I know that song, and you start jamming. And next thing you know, a few weeks later, you're in a band with a couple of like-minded individuals. And but the solid foundation started, I think, at 10 years old with the guitar. And then it all stemmed from that. Like, it was an obsession over music. Like, I used to, like, if I ran out of lunch money, because I used to get some money for like whatever, like during the week, sometimes food was getting expensive, and we were splurging on just like buying just junk food,
Yeah, that's
and
what
then
kids do.
So sometimes on a Friday or a Thursday, I'd be like, you know what, I'm not that hungry. We can just keep jamming, and then we just made songs, and I got super into like Metallica, Megadeth, like thrash metal, and then we were like playing, the clarinet and the trumpet during the daytime, and then at lunchtime we would master up puppets, doing like learning how to play battery.
The kids are all right.
Like it was a real cathartic experience that allowed me to connect to my peers, because I did feel like a very big disassociation moving from Mexico to Canada. The cultural shock.
Big jump.
Just all my friends left behind.
Especially at that age too.
It's
like a big change.
And you can't tell now, but English wasn't my first. I had to like learn it, right? So lyrics, music helped me really solidify the connotations of words, not just the literal meanings of the semantics. Right, but like what these the poetry of the lyrics, because it was 5 of us: me, Pablo, Richard, Juan, and Andrew. Shout out to them if you're ever gonna see this. But and then 3 guitarists, a bassist, and a drummer. And we're like, okay, are we just gonna jam? Like, is there who's gonna sing? And they're like, Lou, like you're asked, why don't you sing? And I'm like, okay, I'll try it, but like I'm not a singer. And then we were jamming, and then the music teacher, he came in. He's like, oh, okay. He was a he was a Polish guy by the name of Andrzej Rozbicki. And he was like, oh, do you guys want to play the spring music concert? We all look at each other like, sure, and we're playing Metallica. He's like, like, so we're like, kind of like, sure. And then, and he came in when I was singing. So he's like, okay, in his head, I was just the singer of the band and solid. So, oh my God, I was like, am I going to actually sing in front of the whole school? And like 2 years later, I was just this insecure kid who was hard time making friends. English was still like not fully developed. But, the encouragement of my friends, the resonance of the room, I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll do it. And I remember very clearly to this day, like the spring concert came up and we were backstage in the auditorium full of 400, 500 kids of my age. So,
your peers.
I'm sweating. I'm like I can, there was a girl I remember like liking it. She was right at the front, and I'm like, guys, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm going to throw up. I really can't do that. No, Lou, like you got this. Like you're going to do well. We were going to do Sanitarium by Metallica. Damn. And we were doing I think Seven Nation Army.
What?
The
red, white stripes.
So I was like, oh my God, I'm forgetting the lyrics. I'm not sure. I'm like trying to come up with excuses why I can't do it. And then something in me was just I was like, you know, like when I don't know if you ever like dove at the Woodbine pool, you know, like that tall Woodbine pool. But there's a moment where you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna just do it.
I'm here.
Yeah, like you're there. What, you're gonna go back down the ladder? No. So I was there, and then there's still a video of it. 2009, my first concert ever with the band. Yeah, like my heart was ready to pump out my chest. But then I remember going on stage, they turned down the lights, and then everyone just started like, wow, screaming. And I remember that feeling. Like, I remember, like, to this day, it's the driving force behind what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, okay, this is something. Yeah. And then all the nerves, as soon as I touched the mic, they went away. I was like, also the lights were really bright, so I couldn't really see anybody.
You can't really see people?
Yeah. And then we played Welcome Home Sanitarium, and like, you know, it's kind of like a soft, slow starting song. I was like singing it like very like barely on key, you know, but like getting through it. And then we get to the part with the solo, and then and then we're all in sync. I'm like looking over, like we're jamming out.
Kidnapping music.
Yeah. I'm looking at the girl, and the girl that I had a crush on, she was like smiling. I'm like looking over. I'm like, yeah,
got it.
This is it.
Yeah, I can do this.
This is the moment. Yeah. And then I remember we stopped, and the I've never heard a crowd that loud until that point. I was like, wow, like that's for us, like that's crazy. And then everybody knew our names, right? And then awesome. It was like we were the metal kids, the music kids. So it was like 4 years of just being driven by that moment.
That's all it takes.
It was grade 9 spring music concert.
That's amazing.
And to this day, it's just like one of the most cathartic experiences of my life.
It's amazing when you look at like the step A, B, C, D, you know, when you look back at the whole picture sometimes, and it's like you said, that guy, the teacher popping his head in, and just like he heard it, and he was like, you know, they don't know the next step, maybe I'll tell them, you know, here's an opportunity, and then, and he may not even be thinking that too. It's just like part of the process. And then it's like here's an opportunity that's been presented, and you guys took it, and it's like, that's amazing. I love that shit. And that's what, like, I remember Dave Grohl saying that, like, that's what American Idol should be, not like just, you know, you're thrown into the spotlight and everybody's telling you how to be perfectionist. Right. He's like, this is the real American Idol. He's like, with your buddies, and you're working shit out, and then you do your first gigs together, and it's like
the inspiration of it.
Man. And it's like, I think what happened for you, what you're explaining, is like you discovered the music and you discovered this new portal, and it's just like now you're looking through this other portal, and it's like, oh, this is endless. This is, my imagination can drive me through this new dimension, and it's like, that's really cool. You discovered it at that age. It's amazing to see the progression of, even in hindsight, of my character through the music. Because I mean, with everything balances out. So even though that was a really positive experience, it solidified us as like we're the shit. Right? So there's this little bit of ego that a couple years later ended up being the ego that made the band fall apart. You know? But you need that to drive, like, the ego is a tough thing, but you also need the ego to get on stage. Right. To the confidence. To rock it, to like you said, to that moment you felt like you didn't want to do it, you're gonna throw up. That moment of like thinking you're gonna throw up to getting on stage and rocking it, that takes ego. That takes a little bit of ego. Or some sort of blind faith, at least. I think it's kind of like exactly like that too. Like you do things when you're young, you're like, holy shit, I fucking did that. It's like I should have. But it's also just like you're following your heart, basically. That's 100% what it is. And I think when you do that, the vibration is set. the tone is set, and then the world in front of you transforms into that.
Yeah.
What you're pumping out, like you're pumping out those vibes.
Yeah.
So the earth or the universe is giving it back to you, saying like, oh, you're on this wavelength now. Now you can see it.
Yeah.
Now you can communicate with it. So here's your communication piece. Here's your porthole.
Yeah. And shout out to my teachers, both the recording teacher, Miss Kelly, my keyboarding teacher, Rosbicki, who was my music teacher. He was a doctor in music and he was teaching high school also. Yeah. So he had a lot of opportunities for the higher up students to play in orchestras, which he allowed me to, because I was playing trumpet, and then I was the best trumpet player, but like he could tell that I was a little bit bored with it. Yeah. So he moved me to baritone, because it's the same vowels but it's a different clef. Yeah. So, you know, bass clef, treble clef. Yeah. So I played keyboard, trumpet, baritone, clarinet. I was like doing the drums, the bass, and the guitar in the lunchtime on my own. So by the end of high school, just out of pure obsession, I was able to like, you know, translate. I was able to sight read, play all sorts of genres. You know, I was just like super immersed in music. It became part of my personality, which is a really positive thing. But the other negative part of it was that when I graduated high school and the band disbanded because of there was girl problems, right? As usually, you know, that happens with the ego. I felt a existential crisis. I'm like, okay, who am I without the music?
So you just graduated, you're like 18.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, like, you know, what am I really doing with it? So I went to school for electrical engineering, thinking my parents are pushing me to like do a trade, you know, as every parent.
Now it's crunch time.
Yeah.
It's reality world time.
Right. So I was like, okay, well, I like math, computers, and like frequencies. So I'm like, I like, you know, electrical engineering seemed like the perfect route, you know, to like try to make money doing something I'm good at, you know. I didn't like math, but I was good at it. It's kind of counterintuitive. Yeah. You know, I was like, I was in the calculus, like all the math classes, right? I also graduated with the awards for the keyboarding class, the recording class, and the music class. Yeah. So I was like, okay, like all of these awards are pointing me towards music, but there's no real money there. So I'm not gonna go to music school. Yeah. You know, like it didn't interest me, like because I'm like.
Because you basically already did music school.
Basically, yeah. And I already had music classes on the side, and I quit music guitar class because I just felt like stagnant. Like every time I was just learning a new song, not learning how to approach music creation through the theory, through the through
your feelings.
Exactly. Yeah. So I went to Humber for electrical engineering, and then after 2 semesters, my parents were kind of helping me with the money, but I was paying for a lot of it. And at the time, I was still a permanent resident, so OSAP wasn't fully available to me. Mm-hmm. So after 2 semesters, I'm like, I'm spending all this time, all this money, all this energy. What am I really doing? So I dropped out without my mom knowing. And then I put the money that I was going to put into the semester 3 into gear. I just bought a bass guitar because I was just renting stuff at the time or borrowing people's. What year is this now? This was 2013. So I graduated in 2012. Yeah. And 2013 was when I was like, okay, like, let me try this music thing, you know? Yeah. So I met this guy.
So you bought gear, you bought instruments.
Yeah. I started like slowly collecting gear. Any money that I came across, I bought AT20. No, yeah, absolutely. And I started like, I told my mom like, hey, listen, like I'm going to follow my passion, my dreams. She's a dancer, right? Yeah, so she was supportive, cautiously, you know, she's like, okay, as long as you're dedicated. But also
she knows the road of an artist.
That's what she was telling me. Yeah. She's like, even where we're from, like it's a tough thing. It's all about contacts. If you're gonna do this, you need to be disciplined. You need to follow yourself and your heart. But you know, it's a way harder sustainability sort of path, right?
You gotta want it more than anybody else.
Respect. Yeah. So, you know, I ended up thinking, okay, might as well, if I'm going to do anything with my life, might as well dive into something that I'm passionate about.
That's cool your mom said that, and that's like, she gave you Like that was real. Like to be. I think that's more important with your kids. Is like, you know, support them in any way possible with any dream they want to do, but also like, you know, be straight up with them about what, you know.
Yeah.
And there's like with anything, it's like even, you know, accounting, you got to work hard at it. Everything you got to work hard.
You get what you give.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and then it was 2014.
So you have gear now. You get some gear.
Yeah, and then I dropped out of college, and then I was in 2014. There was this bar called Kitsch. I don't know if you know it, but it was at Geary and Dufferin. It was there for a few years.
We gotta talk about this.
Yeah, you know. So
up, yeah.
at 2014, I had just turned 19, right? So it was the first bar that I was going to. You know, it's like with my friends, we were always getting pizza. My 19th birthday, I remember, I had my first legal beer there.
Yeah.
And then one day, we were going there so often that I got to know the cook. I forget his name at this point, but.
So Gary and where, right, exactly?
Dufferin.
Right at Gary and Dufferin, like where the mall used to be?
Where the Galleria used to be.
Mall is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because we were a regular, our friend, Neil was his name.
Yeah.
He offered us, me and my friends, he offered us shots, free shots. He's like, I'm like, yeah, dude, you're a legend. Of course,
Yeah.
sure. So he comes back from the kitchen, comes back with a plate. I remember so vividly, a plate with 5 shots, 4 for us, 1 for him. He's like, cheers to, you know, you guys like coming here all the time. And then we do the shots, and immediately this guy who I didn't know at the time was the boss, the owner of the place, Brian, he beelines to him. He's just straight, and he's all mad. He's like, get in there. And I'm like, oh my God. And then Neil's like, okay, I'll be back. And then all we're hearing is just screaming. Yeah, he's just cussing him out. He's like, why are you giving free alcohol? Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be working. There's two meals you haven't cooked, blah, blah, blah. He's like going off. I'm just like, we're looking at each other, awkward moment. We're like, should we say something? We're just chilling, eating our nachos. And then next thing you know, we see him. He doesn't even say bye. He's got his jacket, his hat. Yeah, on the spot. So I was like, damn, that's crazy. And then as crazy as this is, because I followed up with him after, you know, I said, hey, sorry if you got in trouble for anything that you did for offering us anything. But, you know, I was still a regular. So the next time that I showed up, Brian was just sitting there on his computer. The guy who fired him. And I just figured I'd strike a conversation with him. I'm like, hey, I've been coming here to this place. This is an awesome spot. And we just started talking. Yeah. And at the time I was working at Big Fat Burrito. Yeah. So I was just in the service industry. I was working as a cook in a couple other places. Yeah, like I started from dishwashing in like 2012 at this restaurant. So I was like, hey, like, I think you might need a new cook, right? Like, I saw you fired Neil the other day. Like, you know, I was just honest with him. He offered us some shots and he's like, yeah, he shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, well, as unfortunate as that is, I like literally he was on the computer like looking at emails and resumes for cooks. So I just walked in the right time, right place. Yeah. And then he's like, you know what, come by tomorrow. Let's see what you could do. Yeah. So I did, and a lot of their stuff was Tex-Mex. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, no problem. You want pico de gallo? No problem. Yeah. Like I know how to do that.
Authenticity. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he liked that, right? Yeah. So he's like, okay.
Authenticity. That's the word. Yeah.
Exactly. So I got the job the next day. Yeah. This was like May 2014. And at that point, Kitsch was like a music bar. Like it was an open kitchen concept. It was like a 2-floor. They specialized in nachos. So they had like a weekly open mic there.
So is this like beyond Wallace Community Center? I'm trying to picture where it is.
Yeah, so you know how there was a McDonald's?
Yeah.
So if you keep going north on Dufferin, before you hit that church,
on Gary you're talking
on
about.
Gary, yeah. It used to be, now it's
I know, yeah.
Greater Good.
On the southeast.
Yeah.
There used to be a Portuguese deli there.
Yeah, with the 4
cars. Story and then I'll tell you, I grew up there.
Oh yeah, it's still got some of the old vibes. But yeah, to finish my story, there was a weekly show that was happening there, a open mic where I met so many musicians,
Yeah.
and it just led to all the opportunities. I can still stem some connections that I have now to Kitsch.
You started there.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Yeah.
You know what's gonna blow your mind even more?
Tell me.
I grew up at Primrose.
Right around the corner.
At
Yeah.
the co-op housing there.
Oh, okay.
Primrose and Davenport.
Yep.
Right, there's a park there, and then so I grew up there.
I went to St. Mary of the Angels.
I went to Regal Road, on the top of the hill. I had all my other Latino friends and that I grew up with. They went to
St. Mary's.
St. Mary's,
yep.
But I was like, no. I went to where
it's a
all
small
the crazy
world.
Kids go on the top of the hill. I went to funny thing. I went to Hawthorne, which is a French immersion school.
Oh, okay.
At Christie and Bloor.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there, and it was like fucking hippies.
Oh wow!
And it was like did the hippie thing of like all this stuff that's happening now. It was done in the early '80s.
Wow!
Like it was like we're not grading the kids. We're not gonna hurt their feelings
right.
and all this stuff. And none of the parents liked it, so they pulled all the kids out. None of us learned anything.
That's crazy.
So I ended up in Regal Road, and then
okay.
I went to school there till end of grade 6, and then I went to a specialized school, Winona, which was an art school.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
so,
I know those two schools very well. I have friends from there. Yeah,
and I don't know how my mom got
at St. Clair, close to St. Clair. Yeah.
So it was like you had a homeroom, which was either like theater or music, and I wasn't interested in music at the time, so I did theater.
Okay.
And every day we just did sketches.
Interesting.
It was the bomb, man.
Wow.
And it was like that was our homeroom.
That's pretty sweet.
And so what a great way for kids to get shit out.
Creative
outbursts and no restrictions and creativity. So it was like
That's amazing.
And it was right at the time of In Living Color. So when we all got to school on Monday, we're like, did you fucking see that sketch?
What a different time, eh?
Holy man. And it was like,
wow.
I grew up a multicultural, so it was just like, there was no holds bar for anybody. It was just like.
Right, but also like no phones or no way. Even the internet was like.
Nothing.
Super, super new.
I'm actually starting to write a movie. I've written a couple movies that have been on like the back burner. I'm writing a movie, and it's kind of going to be like Stand By Me. A bit, and it's gonna be like
a coming of age story.
Yeah, me and my buddy when we were 15, and we're the last phase before kids had cell phones, and it was the summer like in '95 or something. So just like that innocence of also kind of just like not being attended, and the shit we got in. Yeah, but also life lessons of like, you learn, and you burn, and it's like you figure it out. But I love just listening to you, how, you discovered music and it just discovered you. Yeah. So now you're like, you're well established with your practice of instruments. Yeah. You've been through a band. Yeah. You're starting to get some gigs. So now are you going to get some gigs at that place?
Yeah. So out of the open mic, people saw that I could play bass really well. I started playing with like Danielle Knoll and like my buddy Julian Fatsound, incredible drummer. He was playing for some amazing acts like Del Hartley, like Chelsea Bennett. Yeah. He was the drummer for Kanon, Wow. Yeah, so I remember like being around him, I met a lot of incredible people, and then same with Danielle, and then my buddy Taylor Perot was the manager at Rehearsal Factory at the time. So I was just helping him clean and sweep up rooms once in a while. And he let me just jam out on the drums whenever. Wicked. So I was surrounded at work and with my friends. It was just music, musicians, opportunities. I was able to have that symbiotic relationship with like, just music. And at the time between serving and just getting gigs on this side, I discovered that you can make money doing freelance AV if you know how to plug a cable. Yeah. It's crazy. Sound. Not even sound. Yeah. There's so many gigs. Like if you're a stagehand, you know what you're doing? You're just lugging gear in and out of a truck.
Set up tear down.
Yeah, like simple stuff,
Yeah.
you know? So one of my friends, he's like, hey, do you want to do this stagehand gig for Ever After?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've never done any freelance like AV. He's like, bro, literally just, I know you could do it because you're a musician and you have a studio.
Yeah.
Just go. Yeah. He's like, I'm feeling sick. If you can take this, it's good for the both of us.
Yeah.
So I showed up. It's just tightening truss, pushing cases. You're following instructions really from the lead anyway.
I've done a bunch of that. Yeah.
Right? So between that, discovering that, and then getting more and more freelance gigs, getting more gigs with the bands, and I started just being in projects, not really full bands, but playing for people. And then I got a studio at Rehearsal Factory, a studio loft.
I used to play there a lot.
Yeah.
Rehearse there a lot. Yeah.
It was the one in Islington though, in Etobicoke.
Oh, sorry, the one in Gary used to.
The one at Gary is classic. Yeah, I still live around there.
Yeah.
That's the neighborhood.
That's awesome.
But in Etobicoke, I got a loft space there, and I was just doing freelance gigs, playing music, and I turned my loft studio into a studio.
Yeah.
So I was recording people for 20 an hour, or just like whatever you had. Like I was more trying to get a bunch of tracks, and I got some talented people because naturally I was only surrounded by really like just the people at Kitsch, the people at Rehearsal Factory. Yeah. So it was really easy to pick up a lot of really good recordings or performances. So I got really fast at knowing how to mix stuff. Because my dad's a voiceover actor, so I've been in the studios for a while.
Yeah, you're aware
of just kind of how it works or what you're looking for. Because it's hard to teach taste.
Taste and takes and proper setup.
Yeah, the gear, the even controlling the energy of the studio.
Ready for people. I noticed that a lot of people aren't ready to record, and they miss a lot of stuff.
You can miss the energy. Yeah, you got to capture these moments.
I always record right away.
Yeah, it's good to catch it fresh.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, but I was just saying I'm surrounded at this point by only musicians, you know.
Yeah.
Which was amazing, but it also led to this existential crisis again, the second time, where I was like, okay, again, my life is only music.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing?
I need to sharpen up in some other
or even just as a human. I guess we all have this. Like, it's like the purpose thing. Like, what are we doing? What are you striving for?
Time on?
Even if you do get all the money, what's other than comfort and like there was this like soul search that I was like really trying to find I guess purpose.
So what year is this?
This is at this point, this is like 2017, 2018.
Okay. Yeah.
I was making enough money to travel too. I was in Barcelona for like a month.
Oh, sick.
Then I went to Lucerne in Switzerland.
Amazing.
It was just an incredible run of 4 years because everything was just kind of working. In hindsight, I could have been more grateful. I didn't you don't know you're in the good times until they're gone, you know?
Yeah, you're young. You're just going through.
Yeah. And then, opportunities, and then COVID. Everything stops. Everything. And everything was freelance. So there was no, thank you. No insurance, no
safety net.
Yeah. Other than just recording at my studio. And
did you make enough taxes to get the minimum? The
1,800? Yeah. Through the AV alone.
Yeah.
A lot of the studio sessions were cash.
Yeah, because
so I wasn't.
Unless you did taxes on those, then you can't.
It was my apartment, so it wasn't. It was easy to just
Well, it's good you got
right up
that
until the
because
pandemic.
a lot of I know people that were full-time musicians and there's not a lot on their tax. They don't file enough taxes and they weren't able to get that.
Right.
Get that minimum. So we're at that time. Did you have a spot? Were you had a place already? Yeah,
the Islington Rehearsal Factory. I had a loft up there that I got through pure luck again. Like I'm talking about these stories and it's a lot of alignment, a lot of chance. Yeah. A lot of right place, right time.
Yeah.
And just being ready, like always. To play, to just record. But anyways, 2016 to 2020, I have this rehearsal factory. It's amazing. And then in March of 2020, I go to Mexico.
Yeah.
So, and then I'm in Mexico and I'm hearing
So did you
all of the
laugh
news
before knowing this shit?
Yeah, bro.
Listen to your
It was
instincts.
crazy.
Man, for real. Did you have a feeling or did you just
No,
have this thing planned?
it was already planned before. There was coronavirus wasn't even a factor in it at all. It was November or December that I bought the ticket for March.
Whoa.
So like 3-4 months ahead.
Dude,
so I'm in Mexico,
holy shit.
hearing and seeing all these news from the premiere. I'm like watching international news for my family,
So
but
you
to
have
me
a
it's
return
stuff
ticket?
from. I did, for March 22nd.
Yeah.
Which is the day.
Everything.
The day,
changed.
literally the day that they closed all the airlines.
Yeah.
So I got on, I think, the second last flight going from Mexico to Canada. Yeah. But the story was crazy because, long story short, I was at the airport for 12 hours. Even the Canadian consulate got me on 2 different flights. Canceled. It's all live, right? Everything's changing. So I'm in the airport, and by hour 18, like I was like sleeping on the side of this shit. And then I get a call or an email saying that there was a bunch of cancellations on the final flight from Air Canada straight to Toronto. So I was gonna do a stopover, right? Yeah. But this is the last flight. There's cancellations. The ticket is yours. It was like an emergency vibe, right?
Yeah.
So somehow in 18 hours, with the help of my parents too, we found that last flight.
Yeah.
And then, bro, when I kid you not, I got back and it's like everything was just different. Because I had to mandatorily quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I just traveled. I'm like, okay. So I didn't see anyone. No, it's just at home, because my dad had gotten back 2 days before me. So we can quarantine together in their head,
Like, what the fuck's going on?
So I'm losing all my work. I'm losing, I can't be at the Islington apartment. So I start finding someone to sublease it. Crazy time. 2020, wow. March was insane. March to April were just complete paradigm shifts,
It was bonkers.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to get really good at mixing because I have to. Like, now I can just get stems from people.
Did you already have stuff on your plate, or did you...
No, I was just, recording vocals and, making beats and just giving people, demos. There was no deals. There was no music business.
So you were ready. You were hungry to get some stuff done.
I was ready but desperate to find something that worked. I'm like, or what am I gonna do? Go back to working the service industry,
Whenever that starts up again.
Right?
Even that was out of the question.
I'm like, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
So I got there was a pure necessity to learn how to mix really well. And I started submitting mixes to a lot of the artists I was working with. And I'm like, hey, I'm charging for mixes now. I have more gear. I have better plugins. I got the whole Waves bundle. So I learned as much as I could, day in, day night, watching videos, trying out all the plugins myself. Out of desperation, some good shit can come out, if it gets you focused. If you need it, that
was the most fight or flight moment I've been in.
Right? Yeah, your mind changes,
Yeah,
your focus, your priorities, they all change.
Yeah, I saw exactly. I saw what's happening. It's a digital shift, and also it's if you're not, thinking on the lines of sharpening your own skills and creating your own skills, it's the demand for anything is just gonna go by you.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna be you're gonna be obsolete. So
you gotta move with the times.
This is just hey, grab these cameras, and it's and I had the thing is I had all the gear. I had the lights. I had everything already. I had this Scarlet thing. I had everything, all the components. So it was just get this one brain and learn.
It's perfect.
Yes, just trial and error. It was a lot of trial and error. There's some old episodes of me and my buddy. So I hooked up with my buddy in Germany, who's another rapper.
Oh, cool.
So we decided to do live shows, and then we were sending each other beats, and then freestyling on live
Right.
on on each other's beats.
That's sick. Yeah, content, right?
Yeah, and it was like,
And in Germany, that's international. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
and it was like like you said, you're forced to kind of like, there was this push inside of you that was like, oh, like I said before we started rolling, I didn't want to catch up to everybody technology. I wanted to go ahead and learn ahead, and it was like, and now I do a lot of the AV like webcasting stuff too. It's like, this is incorporated. This is OBS is incorporated.
It's perfect.
It's,
honestly, like, yeah, self-sustained broadcasting.
Yeah.
That's like you said before we started, everything's going virtual.
Yeah.
Like, everything is changing. Like, really, if you don't get with, like, especially now with AI, I'm realizing, like, using AI in your systems to help facilitate everything is the only way to not get left behind.
That's the step I'm gonna have to get over, because that's like a third generation thing. Because
it's crazy.
I'm the last of Gen X, like the last year of Gen X. So I'm the last year. We're the last generation of like the mix. Like, half of our life was without the internet, and the other half was with. So it's like, this AI jump is a big jump.
It is kind of crazy, but if you compartmentalize it and simplify it, because one of my software buddies, he broke it down for me, because I was feeling the same, and he gave me a document, because he's my buddy, of like different tasks that you would hire someone for, and specific AI models that would do that exact same task for you, right down to editing video.
Oh, that's like, because I'm interested as fuck, because to me, most of my stuff is monotonous, and it's like, I could do without it.
But you know how to do it so easily.
Exactly.
There's systems that can do it.
I would rather not put the time into it too. Like, there's, for example, there's 3 or 4 things. Like if you were to do a live show, and have these 3 cameras, what I would do is live to tape. I would actually have somebody switch it.
Right.
But if you want to be super tedious about it, and you'd have all the ISOs of the cameras, what you can do is load it up in Premiere, and it's like, it'll automatically do the cutting for you.
That's right, depending on who's talking.
Exactly.
It's like intelligent.
It's like, I'm cool with it doing that stuff, and then me showing up and like, oh, let's tidy up on some creativity.
That's what I'm saying. He told me.
I'm fine with that.
It opened up my brain as to how to integrate it in a
100%
non-invasive way, or in a non-mysterious, ambiguous, like, oh, I'm working with AI. What the hell does that even mean?
Well, it's a tool at the same time too. So I was explaining to it too. So I did a lot of AV stuff as well. I did this one for bookkeeping. And it was like a lady, there's this guy explaining AI, and he was like, it's only as if it's like, yes, Word and the computer and programs like that are great. It's like only what data you're putting into it. Yeah, it's like, that's
you got to feed it. Yeah,
you can't just look at Word and like something's gonna appear and like be written. And so he's like, it's what you feed into AI. Yeah. So you have to give it that information in that guide. And it's like, then it'll do the work for you. And for stuff like, also for like publishing stuff, I would like it for 2 things. Like, one, first, like, you want to be personal when you're booking shows, but not at the same time when it's just like reaching out. So there's 2 things that, one, because what I do is I just go with Google Maps, and I just go over, say, I don't know, St. Louis, and I just say bar music venues, and then it pops up all the music venues, and then I go music bars, and then I go music cafes, and then I do like 4 searches like that, and then I usually find all the places to play, right?
Okay, sick.
I would like AI to do all that, and get all the list of, like, you could just say like the whole states, and then you have I already have 2 templates, like one's for radio, one's for booking. You'd have the template for booking. It's like, Focus has played 200 shows in Canada in US, blah blah. Here's his style. Here's the EKP. Here's the links. The
EPK.
That's all you have. It's just like the press pack, and then you're like, spit that out. AI,
right. Even right down to the submissions and the email rating, and you can even train AI in tone tonality. It's crazy. It's really wise to adapt like now into that.
Well, here's the question. Actually, that's the funny thing you said that, because I just had an epiphany now about this. Like, I what I keep saying over and over is like the podcast thing really helped comedians. So it helped them step outside of the box of like, now we don't need Letterman and all these late night shows or
that's right,
or Just for Laughs anymore.
Yeah.
So now with the musician,
there's a new
indie
platform.
Musician, you can kind of use AI as your record label. Like all the things that a record label does, you can kind of use AI in these tools.
Yeah.
And it's like, now here's the freedom of the artist being able to be an independent entrepreneur that can make his own living. Yeah. And like make a living amongst each other as artists and not relying on the labels too much.
Now, do you think because it's getting easier and easier to make music, produce music, publish music, and do this, do you think
I know you're gonna
it's maybe the saturation of it, is that serving anyone?
100%. I knew I was going to kind of talk about that too. And that's the problem, where it's like when you get a tool like that, it provides, it encourages laziness as well too.
Yeah, that's
and it's like
interesting way to put it.
But one meme I've always seen over and over, it's like I'd like my AI to do like the dishes and repetitive stuff, not paint and do music.
Exactly. The creative stuff, the subjective stuff.
So there's a huge problem with that, but it's like if you're an artist and you're a true artist, I think your art's gonna stand out past all this stuff. Hopefully, it doesn't get washed out by too much AI stuff. And I think as a true artist, because I really make music for myself. Really, it's like that selfish, and it's. If somebody can relate to it, then it's cool.
It's something you can resonate with, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's where...
it's my communication. Like you said, it's exactly... Because I was the same as a kid. Like, I was like, fuck, there was a lot of pent-up shit I didn't know about, and didn't know how to communicate it. And when I was introduced to music, it was like... Here's a fucking vortex of like... channeling that... What's inside.
It's energy.
Interpret. I don't know how to like... put that into language.
That touches on an important thing I've been thinking about a lot lately. The importance of self-expression is getting lost a little bit.
Yes, 1,000%.
I see it more and more in artists that are doing music, but maybe for the clout, or maybe, which there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it's like saturated in that
it's
aspect.
Almost like the cheap dopamine you get from social media. It's almost that recognition of just like it's almost just for the recognition, not the recognition for, you did a good job and you put all your out. Like when I put you put a project out and you've done your best and somebody says, yo, that sounds good. You're like, that's a genuine feeling.
It's like, a piece of your work, like, a piece of your mind,
a
piece
of
recognizing
the hard work that I put into that.
Yeah, or at least it feels good that it resonates with them, because it obviously does with you.
But I think I don't want to generalize, but it's just like most people, artists that have that search are probably social media driven, 100%. Not 100%, but their art is driven towards like social media. Oh, I got more followers, or like that's the goal. Instead of just like,
it's a very interesting topic and point, because I think that you can go on a tangent about what is good or bad, or what's right or wrong in terms of like why do music at all, right? Yeah. But I think as long as it's in the scope of getting you to do something positive, like at least
100%.
Like then it's okay.
1,000%.
If it's like for the whatever,
it could be weird as fuck, and it's like without weird as fuck, you don't have like Bjork, you don't have. But here's the trick with a lot of experimental stuff. Yeah, it like an artist like yourself, you don't get like. A lot of people that do experimental stuff are well trained. They're like good at.
They're
playing
bored of the
instruments.
class
They're
or the
bored of
normal.
other stuff.
Yeah.
And they're breaking out, so it's like.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
like Tom York.
Be lucky that people experiment.
Yeah,
And
it's that realm of back to your very first question of how I do the like the creative process. It's really the inspiration comes from like trying to discover something new.
Yeah.
Like I would love to show you some tracks later, but I like really fusing like elements, like maybe like tribal, like little drum African pattern with like some house.
Yeah.
You
like
know?
Old 90s.
Yeah. Or like, so you can speed it up and it's kind of like jungle.
Like freestyle.
Chop up a drum break. And because I can play a lot of this stuff, I'll sample stuff that I'm recording. Sometimes I'm jamming with the band. Because we have a band on Thursdays. We jam every week. And the recordings that we get, I'm like, yeah, these are really good like song ideas, and then put it into Ableton, splice it up. It just becomes like a whole creative process, you know? I don't know. Music in general, it's such a amazing thing. I hope AI doesn't really oversaturate more than it is, because there's something I think like 10 or 20,000 songs released every week. There's a statistic out there that's like,
I don't know.
I think it's more than that now.
Yeah.
Way more.
Who knows how much of Spotify artists are gonna be AI. And also it's like, I don't know, man. I see another like pendulum swing with this technology, because almost in a way I feel like this as an artist. When I release an album, I'm almost like watering down the value of it sometimes when I've released it on so many platforms. It's just like now it's on 40-50 platforms, and I don't have the time nor the energy, maybe that's another AI thing, to like tidy up each of those individual artist channels for myself.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
And not only that, it's like if you're gonna like do runs on them, it's like best to do one thing at a time, like an album run or a Spotify
more focused
run, or like a title run, you know. So that takes a lot out, and it's like, I've seen a huge like counterwave with like vinyl and tape and CDs again. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. The vintage like, coming back.
My first project was my last thing I printed. It was my first album, was my last CD. So the last second and third CD have been just digital.
Oh yeah, you don't need the physical stuff anymore so much. Even though
long gone,
that does put you in a different place when you're doing shows. People will buy the merch just out of like support for the band, and it's cool to have a physical copy, you know, like. But you know, like records don't sell like there's no more HMV, for example. You know, I think it's gone. The Sam record store gone. You know, like. I personally have over 1,000 records. Like literally, if you go to the studio,
really,
I think I have 9 crates, like full. Just I'm a geek when it comes to just any records growing up that I could just find. I don't know why I was so gravitated to it, but people were just throwing stuff out, maybe 5 at a time or a whole box sometimes. One of my buddies, Austin, passed by one day and he just dropped a box of records. He's like, "Hey, here, add to your collection. I don't want any of these." Sick. And some of them are weird, some of them are contemporary, some of them are folk, but fantastic sample stuff.
There's nuggets in
obscure,
there.
You know, like stuff I've never heard before. Like half of them I haven't heard, you know, but they're, you know, I could spend a whole year probably listening to all of them once a day. But music is so, it's always been, I guess to my point, it's always been kind of saturated in a way. I'm like looking at all these records, and between the 70s to the 90s, like thousands of songs we've never heard, thousands of them, you know, and that are
dynamic,
you know, like, and they're great too. Like you're listening to it and I'm like, oh, this is some classical, but nobody knows about, you know, like that's why I love record diving. But yeah, music is timeless. It's like capturing energy in a moment.
And a feeling.
Yeah, and having like the best music is very authentic, very true. You can kind of like tell sometimes through the tone, the delivery, the you know, the energy you put out. That's why I love doing what I do, because it's like, you know, helping people resonate to a level, creating that space so that people feel like it's almost like a safe space to just feel okay to fail.
Yeah.
Like try stuff. Yeah.
To the limit you know you're capable of.
Yeah, because like if you ever come see a studio session, you'll see that I'll do the take over and over until I feel good about it, you know?
Yeah.
I really like the idea of the filter being proud of my work.
Yeah.
Like that way the artist has a reason to come back to me, you know?
Yeah. No, and it shows like
being invested in really liking it.
I was gonna say that.
I need to like it.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, sometimes I'm honest, or I'll be like, do you really want this?
Yeah.
And if it is something out of my vision and it's a technical thing I'm being paid for, like recording or mixing something, client comes first. So
yeah.
I'm always catering to that. But most of the time, the reason I don't really advertise my production or my mixing or my mastering, it's all word of mouth. The reason I haven't wanted to go too much into like advertising on Instagram or on Google or on Facebook, like, hey, come record with me at my studio, is because there's this weird thing with like money. Like it's weird. Like in a studio session, if someone feels pressure, like, okay, what time is it? And there's this weird like, oh, I only have 3 hours. Okay, like now I have to like, you know, we're on hour 2 of song 1. Like, what am I, you know? There's this weird mentality to it. So with all of my clients up to this point, I've had this atmosphere of like project-based prices. So it's a lot less pressure.
Yeah, yeah.
And it incentivizes me to get to the point quickly. You know, like if we get an idea and it works and I can mix it for you in that session, then it's the same $300 as opposed to someone like the Riches. Each song took a week.
Yeah.
But it's the same price.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm not discriminating or boxing people into the time thing.
Yeah.
Which is what I found. This is a tip I wish I told myself in the past. This I found was like a real barrier for the creativity process. Like, you know, maybe when you record, when you're like creating it and making it versus you go out to record it, there's a different energy there. You have to like kind of adjust yourself when you're recording.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, people have like mic shyness.
Yeah.
They'll be singing like crazy notes right beside me, and then get in the studio and then just kind of be all restrained, you know?
Yeah.
And it's natural, you know, because like you're self-conscious on purpose because you're recording.
Now it's go time.
Yeah. So, and I see it freeze people so often. So to avoid that, I tell people my rate's like $75 an hour, but if they want to come in for, I usually just start, especially if it's a new client and I want them to be more creative, they'll come in for like maybe a free hour to just kind of get the idea of where they're at, what kind of music they're doing, you know. Yeah. And then if they want to do either recording, mixing, mastering, creative session, it all depends on the project, you know, like how much of the project do you have done or what kind of vision are you having? And then I work backwards from there. So it's, I guess the only reason I'm talking about this is because I know maybe someone, maybe including you, wants to make a living out of, I mean, you're already doing it, which is amazing. But like a living out of something creative is really difficult, right? Yeah, it's really, it's hard to, it's a moving target,
it's a
right?
Discipline.
Because it's so subjective.
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of time and energy investment where sometimes a lot of the process is just stuff not working. And then you try again until it works. So in order to not be discouraged by that, like I invite people to think outside the box, because I see so many incredibly creative people in the city that they all have jobs. You know, imagine what they could do if all their focus and their attention and even hopefully their money came from creation.
Yeah.
You know, like it's more possible than people think.
Yeah.
but where I see people limit themselves is to think of it as a linear thing.
Yeah.
Like if you invest more in like the relationship with either a client or a studio owner or a producer or a broadcasting person, then you have that like everybody at any point might need something. Maybe you're a violin player.
Yeah.
You know, just really not pandering to people and being like, hey, if you ever need a violin player, like let me know. But more like just genuinely caring for like when people are talking, like listening sometimes. Sometimes I'll see people just in the studio like super like I have a couple of examples, especially early on, where people were coming because of the low price. I attracted this like superficial clientele, which over time I learned to not really work with.
Yeah.
But it's
that's trial and error.
Yeah. It was it got me questioning like why are you doing this? You know, like on my own. I never asked them, but like I'm like, okay, you're just paying me to put auto-tune on one note and saying kind of like the same word, and then you know like very low thought. Then they'd record 5 songs in like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But like there's some talented people that do that. I'm not saying doing it quick is bad.
Yeah, it's just like you've lost the reason why you're doing
exactly it. The purpose, the whole thing. And all the time it used like those rappers either gave up or like they stopped doing it. So in my experience, I've experienced like longevity as a musician or as a creative. If you want to like make more of a living from it, it's like consistency and contacts.
Yeah.
It's literally those two. Because if you keep consistent with what you're doing,
1000%.
like someone's gonna need the service that especially if you're consistent too, you get really good at it. And then eventually someone's like, hey, I need something, and it's something that you're obsessed with already. Like for me, it was music because of the communication thing, because of the, you know, resonance thing. And then eventually I ran into a lot of people that needed a mixing engineer, and I'm like, I got really good at mixing it during COVID because I had to. Or bassist, guitarist. I'm like, I got really good at that not because I wanted to make money ever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like the creative process of making money from it has to stem from something that's not money.
It has to stem
for it
from
to make money.
That you would do anyways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well put.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because
I would do this anyways.
Exactly.
It's not making money, but it could eventually.
Well, once you build it so well because you love it, people pay attention, and then when people pay attention, like money flows where attention goes. That's what I'm saying, 100%. You know. But I would encourage anyone who's creative to like pursue the discipline of consistency, you know, and contacts.
Yeah.
Just build those relationships. Go to the shows. How many shows do we see the people are, oh, I'm playing at this bar? Or how many, right?
A dozen a night.
Right.
More than that.
So it can feel easy to just be like, there's so many shows. Like, I've seen this person play, blah, blah, blah. But there's something that because Toronto's so multicultural and so on the go and so like, I don't know. Yeah, everyone's kind of in New York. It's in the same sort of thought process. It's very independent and individual. Yeah. Like you do you. Good luck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I come from, like
artist-wise, it's like that, and it's like, well, come to my show. It's like, well, I'm playing tonight too.
But even deeper than that, I think like the culture is very, rightfully so. I mean, you have to kind of be focused. You have to be.
It's competitive.
It's expensive.
More competitive than.
You have to be.
Than community.
Yeah. Out of either whether you want to call it capitalism or the culture, there's this atmosphere of I'm feeling like the culture or no the communities or the scenes. What happened to scenes?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now the scene is on Instagram.
Yeah.
I really am trying my hardest to bring community shows back. Like I'm doing this Thursday jam, like I was telling you.
Where is that again?
At my studio, at 1196 Queen West.
Okay.
Every Thursday, it's RSVP, pay what you can. If you have no money, we still let you in.
Queen and where is that again?
Gladstone.
Oh, right at the hotel, the Gladstone.
Right
Hotel?
beside it. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Right by the Monkey Vapes.
On the west side of the street?
On the north side of Queen Street.
Oh, so where that Price Choppers used to be.
That's right. Yeah.
Behind that.
Freshco now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's still a grocery store.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Queen West changes quick.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if you looked at it 10 years ago and then look at it now, it's a different street.
I know. I've seen it from the last 30 years. So,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's been I remember Ossington when it was like one of the not good street to walk up. When like I could handle myself, you could handle yourself. Like, but a young lady going up at night was not.
Ossington, eh?
Yeah, Ossington was a shithole.
Wow.
It was just like old Portuguese bakeries and auto shops. That's
True.
all it was, all up Ossington.
Mm.
And then you still had like the bleed of CAMH, right? So there were just people going completely out of their mind up and down Ossington. And
yeah, CAMH.
yeah, no, I'm from Parkdale, man. I could talk about this is my Parkdale is interesting. It's like
it's a whole
like
character.
Wealth and history and mental health, and it's just like this array of creativity. It's like just unbelievable. Like I met this guy. I was working with the Raptors.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you should come out to this open mic, and it was the press room on Dundas.
Okay.
And so I started going there, and then I went to Access on in the Junction, and then I started going to this one called Not My Dog in Parkdale.
Yeah, I know
and
Not My Dog.
That's
cool.
when it really took off for me.
Oh, okay.
And I made my first album, and then I was like being known for this type of rapper, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I just went everywhere. Like I fucking did every open mic, any place possible, and I became
of all your music
regulars. I just had like one album.
Okay.
Pretty much. So I had
cool.
like 3 or 4 songs I knew.
Right.
And then I was learning the rest of them as I did it too.
I checked out some of your music videos when you were overseas.
Yeah, so
I've
cool.
done
all of them. Majority by myself. I've had camera operators to help me.
That's sick.
But most of them I've done on my own, by myself, and I've edited all my own videos, and that's all trial and error too.
Yeah.
Like I said, I went to school in '99, and we were the first generation to do Premiere.
Right. Wow.
So I grew up with that fucking trial and error of losing everything on Premiere, and also just like learning the new style of editing, of organization, and basically like I said, that part I would like to give to AI. And then the creativity part of editing. So, but also learning as a shooter, because I've been shooting since like 2001. So you want to think as an editor when you're shooting. So even though you have a digital camera, you're just like, don't shoot too much footage.
Right.
You're like, you're overwhelmed.
It's
with
a lot.
Too much footage.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. It's the same for audio too, honestly.
100%.
You don't want to do 1,000 takes. And
and then you're like, what was the good one?
Yeah, you're going to have to like
you're
hear
like,
them all.
fuck, I'm going to listen to it. And then you lose it, because then you don't know. Yeah, so the videos are pretty cool. I enjoy them, because each of them, they kind of represent. I've done 4 music videos for each album, so I got 12, and each of them are like, stories of like how I was thinking at that age as an artist.
And cool.
Then, I like. Each of them have a theme too. Like they're the 4 of them together have a different theme.
Cool.
So,
I gotta hear them sometime.
Yeah. So a good friend of mine, he lives a couple streets down here.
Mm-hmm.
He was working for ET at the time.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He
cool.
was one of their main shooters, and once lockdown happened, just nothing happened. But he had access to like all their gear.
That's amazing.
So I just got an apartment down here, and he's like, "Do you want to go use the drone?"
Wow.
And I was like, all right, so
cool.
just getting some B-roll, and then he had a F7, which is a sick like slow motion camera, and he had a probe lens, which is kind of like a cool POV type of lens.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I had this idea for the song The Papers.
For a music video.
Yeah, and I was just like, let me just like get a basic video of me writing lyrics. And then I had this little green alien guy. I'm like, he's going to show up with some weed for me. We're going to roll some together. And that's the whole video.
That's cool.
So he came and he shot it with this camera, and it was like the best shit I've ever done visually as a project. And then I put that out, and then he had a new camera. We went up Spadina, and I basically did a video. It's called True Story Fool's Glory. And it was basically like my idea, because I started doing a lot of open mics, but also the drinking started picking up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started getting sloppy on stage, and it was just like, I learned that threshold of like being cool and embarrassing yourself. And then that was just like, that was the idea behind the thought of the song, of like everybody who thought they could go on with alcohol on the stage is a damn fool, and it never ends up going well.
No, yeah.
Especially rapping, because you're just
slope.
going down that slippery slope. So then that was the idea of the song, and then my idea with the video was just like me getting out of a gig hammered and getting myself home. So we shot this, and I hired like a makeup artist, and she's like one of the best in the country. So I've done a lot of production over the years. So I've worked with some of the best people in broadcasting and reality TV shows and stuff. And so I had her as a makeup artist, and then me and my buddy as a camera guy. So it was just the three of us.
Okay.
So she made this gash on me.
Oh shit.
So I was gonna fall down and hit a bench and come up and just be bloody, and like, so
wow.
We were doing like a rehearsal kind of thing, and my buddy was rolling on one of the rehearsals, so I threw myself into the bench. I kind of pretended, and this homeless guy was walking by, and just as I hit myself on the bench,
right,
he's like, "You okay?" And I was like, I sprung up, and I was like, acting, I did it. I was like, it was believable.
Did you catch him on the film? Or?
Yeah, we got him on the outtake.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was fun. And then there's the next one I did was I'm really, really the most proud of was Fear. And it was my version of this, They Live.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen the movie They Live?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, that's the rabbit hole for me, dude. That movie sent me everywhere. Anyways, I'm sure you're familiar with the famous scene where he picks up the sunglasses, and he
sees the world in a different. Yeah.
So
definitely.
This is the movie. So
okay.
This is like from '84. It's John Carpenter's legendary cult classic. Anyway, so I did my version of it. A modern version,
right?
So
with the glasses,
yeah. So we did it in Ottawa, and my idea was like to find these glasses and then walk around Ottawa looking through the shit. So
it's controversial. I like it.
Yeah, what I did is my camera guy is cool, awesome dude. Josh is amazing. He looks pretty squirrely, and I always say like I'm a camera guy too, and I wouldn't trust. Like if I was walking up to you in the middle of the night, I would be like, "Oh, it's like a little after." So I was like, I always joke around and say, "Is he a camera guy or is he homeless?" Like he looks the same.
Damn.
If you know camera operators, you know what I'm talking about.
True.
Anyway, so I was like, my idea was Josh. We do a lock-off shot, and Josh would drop these glasses off at the Terry Fox statue, and I would walk along, pick them up, and then start. Seeing my version.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So we did that. It was sick, and it was like I made Josh kind of watched the scene in this movie where he gets the glasses, and I wanted to kind of shoot it like that, like the same walk off shots, the same style of shots.
Right.
You know?
Okay.
So I pick it up and I see like a marquee. There's like, and it was just kind of like we just winged it. Like we had an idea, like we had a structure, but we just parked somewhere and we're like, oh, that looks cool. Let's shoot there. And then we just went from there and like around Parliament. And so I had like 2-3 locations in mind, but it was like all these things we found on the way. And that's how I do my music videos too. It's kind of like structure. You have to have a script.
Yeah.
You have to have a shot list.
Right.
But there's a lot of fluctuation in between.
Yeah, the creative part.
There's a lot of creative aspects.
Yeah.
And what I learned and what I try to teach or give advice to people making their own music videos is don't tie yourself up in certain scenes. Like scenes where a lot of people want to do scenes with a lot of people. And if it's like, if you're relying on a lot of people to show up, chances are it's not going to go
that's
smooth and or like it'll be a hiccup. So it's like all the scenes you want to be totally in control of, and kind of like being able to bail on some of them or do a longer more shots on certain
You're
ones,
saying be flexible, I guess?
100%, but have a structure. And it's the same as going to the studio. Like, you go to the studio with an idea, you got a few verses, or even somewhere idea in your head, and you go with it. But also, like, if you're ready and the ammunition's ready, you just throw out what's there.
Yeah, what's there, and you capture it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's the creative process is never ending with music videos, with the studio. So you shot a lot of music videos, right? Edited them too.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot. There's color correction. Do you ever do like scripts, or what do you call it? The treatments.
Storyboards and.
Yeah.
No, because I suck as a drawer. I can't do that for shit.
AI.
Yeah, true. Wow, all these things are coming full circle, man. No, it's true. You can basically just put in a script. Like you don't even have to put a script
in words.
You can a shot list.
Yeah, or you can just make each shot. You know how there's like DALL-E where you put like here, make me a image of XYZ.
Yeah.
And then you have your,
Yeah.
You can even have a little animation. There's AI to give you word to, and then you can even the whole video itself could be,
See, now we're getting into that fine line.
Slippery slope of like
where do we let go of the creativity?
Well, okay, a great example of it is A$AP Rocky's Taylor Swift video.
Okay.
Yeah, when you see it, you'll be like, how? Like 90% of it is like
AI.
Yeah, it's composited. It's shot in Ukraine, and there's stuff that's impossible to, like a car with two ends spinning around. There's a guy with a chicken on his head, and and then there's like a big toe.
So they just
foot
took AI
thing.
Shit. Probably this is what I'm guessing. They took AI footage and they just cleaned, tidied it up.
They took real footage of like a set, and then they added things overlaying.
The reverse.
Yeah, crazy, and it looks so real. Like so real. Like the first time you see, you're like, "What the fuck is going on?"
I wrote the papers in 2019 when I was in this place in Dunville, and all I had was a pen and a paper, and I wrote this. I like this 2 lines I did. I can't remember how it goes, but it's like, don't know, all the news that comes out, you don't even know if it's real or not anymore.
It's scary. It's weird to think that,
fake stuff, and it's so people don't. I don't even they realize how much augmented footage they're looking at now, and it's not only you don't even have to mess with footage. It's
I guess I never thought about it.
Putting
too much,
it in, it's a different narrative. You know what I mean? It's interesting.
There's scams out there where people will FaceTime you when it's someone else's face, right? And even the AI switch of the voice can have you can sound like someone else. You can train an AI to respond stuff in your tone, in your voice, It's crazy and it's good. It's
well, you're
really
thinking it, like it's like you just. I remember you touching on earlier about like scamming with phones. Like it's already like pretty complex with certain type of text they're given already, and now they're like it's getting personal. Where they're like, hey, remember this person? They're just throwing it out. You know? Like, hey, remember when we went out this one time? And so somebody interacts with them.
Yeah, no, like, here's a story. Okay, like the other day, I got a message literally a month ago from one of my cousins. He's like, hey, your dad is asking my dad for a lot of money. Is anything going on? I don't check my Facebook. So I didn't see this message. Then I'm having dinner with my mom. I went over to her house and she told me, she's like, did you hear Rene back in Mexico got scammed? I'm like, no, what do you mean? What happened? And she's like, yeah, someone used his like identity somehow and convinced him that he was in trouble, and he sent them something like 500,000 pesos.
What is that? That's like
it's a couple. It's at least, so
any money.
200 pesos is $10.
Yeah.
Or like you can think of it as 20 pesos is one.
Yeah.
So you do the math. Yeah. It's a lot of money. Yeah. Like it was a lot of money.
200,000 pretty much.
It was maybe closer like $80,000. $80,000.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 500,000 pesos. It was a lot.
Holy shit.
Yeah. But any money, right?
Any
like
money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it was like a substantial thing. He's like,
yeah.
"Oh, you're in trouble. You need this." Like I can't even remember what he said. All I got was the story that, you know, like someone used your dad, and then he sent them a message like, how did you, like, that's not how I talk, like how did you think that was me? Why didn't you message me to confirm on another thing? Like you know, like he felt not guilty, but like also curious, and it was this whole conversation over Christmas about like, like my family was telling me like, if I ever tell you that I need money, check in with me again, like through my phone or something, you know. And like this is like a weird thing we've never had to like watch out for. Yeah. You know, like is this you're like talking to the person, or you're like FaceTiming. If it's not like this, you know, like, or like a secure way of knowing that it is them.
Bro, like all those fucking 80s
crazy
science fiction movies.
It's real. Right now we can go on your laptop, you can say something, and then we can make you sound like Drake. Yeah. And through, you know, if you do a deep fake and like, you know, with the right lighting. Yeah. If Drake's interviewing me now. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, you can do it live too. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's insane. I remember when there was a news story. I think they did it. It was like ABC or something. It was like prime time. And it was like mid-80s. Mm-hmm. And it was like showing you how deepfake worked. And they basically had footage of Reagan, but it was different audio from different audio clips of Reagan saying things different that they pieced together. Probably spliced them together at the reel-to-reels.
That's crazy.
And then put the different audio underneath it, so it's like a different narrative under
the same voice.
The different footage context of what your brain's telling you. Yeah. And there's so much of that now, and I think like people don't even realize what they're just scrolling through.
You want to hear something interesting? Yeah. So you ever listen to lo-fi? Yeah. So do you know that like
my second album was I can kind of considered a lo-fi album.
True. Like just that high or low fidelity, like not too much bass, not too much top end. Yeah. So you know that video, like if you put lo-fi, there's a girl studying with a fucking cat. With
a that's like
iconic. Here's something crazy, right? So that specific channel inspired, like you can put in lo-fi music and find some random chill picture of like a little animation with some generic 50 or more than 50%. I was doing some research the other day. More than half of that is AI generated. And if you look at like the different channels, some people have like multiple channels. It's just like a for 6 hours. People just put it on and fall asleep to it, and they're just collecting money. Well, yeah, because like through advertisements, it's only on watch hours.
Yeah, no,
So
that's where it used to be. That's where it is now. That's the criteria now. Yeah.
but now with stuff that's kind of, you can say quote unquote creative, you AI can just make 6 hours of lo-fi through a couple of create me 6 hours of lo-fi.
You can't as a creator keep up with this shit.
So yeah, like they're literally, it's content farms of just like attention. Like now I'm seeing so many more videos of like, it'll be just images and a voice that you know is AI, but it's giving you some decent information. Like, you know, if you search up like how to blah 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 blah, or like any narrative video or history video, there's always a voice that's like, it's not a voice actor.
Yeah, it's AI.
You know, and it's like but here's the thing, the information is valuable sometimes. Like it is, you know, quick recaps maybe of like the Roman Empire. We can find 10 videos on that, and like there's like
all
2 minutes.
These videos that people have been doing up to this point, now it's just like,
and they're quick to the point because it's AI.
Yeah,
it's like, it's not like some subjective
dude introducing himself.
It's like, here's the facts.
Yeah.
Back in the 20, and the voice is the correct voice. And if it's something more for like, you know, food making, it's a girl that's talking about like, you
20
know,
years of information being put into YouTube.
It's crazy because there is an algorithm, a code that has figured out human attention.
Mm-hmm.
That alone makes it sound like Matrix shit. You know, like ones and zeros, like what is color? It's all, you can represent it here, like similar color. I look at that and that is the same. So that means they figured out
a communication.
Yeah, like,
or not a communication, more of like an attention reading device. You know, it's like
yeah. Well, you know, like it's more and more popular that people are talking about the simulation theory. Like we might just be living in a really good like self-made, like if AI gets so intelligent, eventually it's going to start creating more of like itself.
Yeah.
Or even have a need to create. You could call this a god.
Mm-hmm.
In the AI world, the AI creation would have the AI be the god. So you ever watch Rick and Morty?
Oh yeah, it's deep. Do you remember I don't know if you're this old, but do you have Pinky and the Brain?
Yeah.
Pinky and the Brain, I believe, was like the precursor
to Rick and Morty, for sure.
And then Rick and Morty just took it on another dimension, another level.
Different.
Yeah, no, it's I haven't gotten into a lot of the episodes, but they're deep.
There's this one episode specifically that I remember being super stoned watching, and it really took me on a thought train. It was like Rick's car battery runs out, so then he goes to fix it, and then he goes with Morty, and inside the battery is a whole world of people that are doing like a little treadmill machine to make energy for the battery. Yeah. And they, for every like treadmill X amount of hours they get resources. Yeah. And then they can trade those resources amongst themselves like money. Yeah. So they're doing this thing, create energy for money, and that is the battery that just powers his car. Yeah. So, and then one day his car breaks down, and he goes down there and he's like, why did it break down? Oh, it's because everybody stopped working because they figured out that you can create a battery out of a mini world. They figured out what he figured out. And he kept going back into...
That's so deep.
to the point, he got to the one point where he caught the guy who was about to invent it. He's like, how did you know? I had this dream yesterday of like, maybe we could create some sort of self-artificial world that can make energy for us. And then, like, it's just, he kills himself as soon as he told them the truth.
And then it all ripples back.
And then he's like, I'm the fucking god. Remember, I created you. So I can turn you off anytime. Or you can all go back to working for money. And then he's like, yeah, never mind. This whole AI creation was false. Go back to work. And then...
He just starts his car again.
And then, yeah. Yeah,
it's deep. Those are fucking, but it's like it was presented in such like a innocent cartoon, you know. It's just good characters.
Innocent, yeah,
innocent. Yeah, I used to work at Chorus when I was in
cool,
Liberty Village.
Wow,
years ago, and I was an ingester, so I was like putting tapes, 3/4 inch tapes into decks and like putting them into their archive.
Okay, cool. That's awesome.
Systems. So I had lots of SpongeBob to watch, and fuck, man.
Some episodes were like.
Well, the concept is deep. If you know what the concept is,
of SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Concept.
The concept is Bikini Alto. That's where like the biggest bomb was detonated for all the atomic bomb testing in the Pacific.
Right. Okay.
It was like the hydrogen one that like burst the hole in the fucking ozone.
So they can all talk because they're radioactive.
Yeah, they're all radiated. They're all
That's
radioactive.
Hilarious. That's so funny.
Animals, and it's like Bikini Alto is where it takes place, and so they're all these kind of deformed, radioactive.
That's trippy.
Characters.
I remember this one episode where Squidward goes to the future because he gets frozen.
Yeah.
And then he's like, future.
Yeah.
And then he goes so far into the future where he's nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man,
like,
I used to get fucking, because I'd be overnight. We go in the parking lot, get blazed, fucking I go watch
SpongeBob or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my buddy worked there. He got me a job there, and he was doing master control, and he was doing shift work. Okay. So it's like either 7 in the morning till 7 at night, or 7 at night till 7 in the morning, and then I'd be in some other room, CER room, and I would have like a big cart of tapes, but I'd use all the decks, so I'd be done in like 4 hours.
Oh wow. Anyways, chorus.
Yeah, that was long.
By Sugar Beach, right?
Yeah. No, the old one.
Oh.
It used to be in Liberty Village.
Got you.
Liberty Village used to be like
more west.
The mecca of like production.
Yeah. Well, that's where my studio is now.
Yeah. Oh, where?
Queen and Gladstone.
Oh yeah, up right on the top there.
Yeah, literally at the edge of Liberty Village.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right by the Drake Hotel too. Like it's like.
That was one of my first like on stage performances in Toronto.
The Drake Hotel. Or the Gladstone?
Underground Drake
Hotel.
the
great... Yeah. I guess before it got renovated, right?
Yeah, this is like 2008, 2000.
Because after the renovations, like, it's amazing. It's great with the lights and the fucking console they have there.
I saw our buddy Ace and Abby. I saw one of his shows there like 2-3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, shout out Evan.
Yeah, we were chilling all through lockdown. We would go get coffee.
Wow, that's cool.
Down, and I had no work. Like I was fucked. I had just the checks coming in, right?
Yeah.
And he was telling me about this program for artists, indigenous artists. He was like, he's like, I applied for this thing, and he's like, everybody gets a iPhone 12 camera, like a 4K camera, and they're like,
wow,
they want artists to do their own thing and kind of like submit it. And then he's like, I was gonna do it by myself, and he's like, I realized, he's like, you're a pro camera operator. He's like, why don't I just get you to do it? And I was like, fuck yeah, I'll do it for sure.
Oh, sick.
So he gave me cash. Like he was still working.
Wow.
Like he did editing for CTV News.
Oh, he did.
So he did it off. He was able to do it at home, and he was lucky.
Wow.
In that sense, during lockdown, to keep working.
That's cool.
So
a little piece of trivia there.
Yeah, he wanted some, because him and I were hanging out all through lockdown, getting coffee. He lived like Sherbourne and Dundas.
Where does he doesn't live in the city anymore?
No,
I
think
he's just traveling.
Last time I talked to him, when he moved out of that place at Sherbourne and Dundas, he got a room in a friend's place, so he has a home base, and then he just went everywhere. Like he's been on the road for, I think, but I talked to him, like text him. I think we talked on the phone like a few months ago, and I think he still has like a home base here. But anyways, we were always hanging out down by the beach, having coffee, and he's like, oh, can you shoot this thing for me? And he had a gimbal too, right?
Okay, cool.
So I was like, why don't we get up really early and get the sunrise like at Woodbine?
That's perfect. Yeah.
I had nothing to do. Just like,
you live so close to the beach. That's amazing.
So he rode his bike down. We got down there before the sunrise, and I had a gimbal,
nice and early,
and it was just like shots of him chilling there by the thing, and then came up, and then he he came up with the song Ocean Breeze. Like, so he already had a track ready and he was ready to like promote it. So I shot the little video for him, and then he submitted it, and he, you know, I think he got some cash out of it. I'm not sure, but he got some like notice, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. A lot. All his music, especially lately.
He
Yeah.
met these two young ladies who just started like an Indigenous label, and they were looking for somebody.
Wow.
And it's like he just started I think he just, because he was already like, he made the change to Ace and Abby.
Right. From Evan Pang.
Yeah, because he had the band too, and then he was, well, it was like through the lockdown, he changed to Ace and Abby. And then, then he started, he got that video. I helped him with that video, and I helped him do a bunch more. And so he had this camera. So him and I did a bunch of videos at Woodbine there, and he shot for me. Like, I showed him kind of how to shoot a bit, and then we went to the X together, where the one of the roller coaster rides used to be, and we did some B-roll in there.
That's cool.
So it's on my YouTube channel. I got a couple. He shot that. He was doing the camera for that, and then he just fucking
yeah.
But I always knew, like, I wasn't.
I feel so proud of him. I feel really proud of him. From when I met him, he was such a he's such a humble, good soul. Like, he always pulled up. He's always got a smile on his face. Yeah. He's just like, he was always just very genuine. From Thunder Bay. Yeah. So he was part of that Thunder Bay crew that's how I met him, because he was friends with, you know, James Taylor Perot. There was a Thunder Bay crew. They stuck together. That's awesome. Know? So I'm like, oh, okay, he's one of those people. And then he just, like, I saw him play a couple times live, and he always kept getting better, and just like, he started doing stuff with like the reverbs and like the loops and. They're gonna make a documentary on this guy someday.
4 years ago, it's not that old.
Yeah, I really respect him for the come up. He's the huge growth, the incredible journey.
I'll tell you what, because like I spent a lot of time with him during the lockdown, and that last summer, I think it was 2021. It was the first 2020. He took off for a while. Like, he took off. Him and his girlfriend, you've seen at the time, they took off. They went for a road trip for a few months. And then the next summer, he put all his time, like, talk about sacrificing. I've never seen anybody really dig in like he did. Yeah. He fucking took his whole summer away and dedicated to fucking
music.
Because once he met these two girls, there was no guarantee of anything. He just made his album, and then what he did was the
Indigenous label. Do you remember their name? Maybe.
I'm gonna suck for this. It starts I can't remember.
Was it like an acronym?
No.
Because I used to work with this organization that was OENPHA.
Yeah, that's not that.
Yeah, and it was like there's a lot of opportunities for Indigenous people because of reparations and all that.
Well, he's also looking for people to open up from, and now it's his own tour, and he's looking for Indigenous artists to open up, which I think that's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah. So he's doing full circle. He basically, like, these two girls.
That's great.
Started the first label, and it's so cool to see, like, it's such. It couldn't happen to a better person. Yeah. Like, and what I was trying to say is, like, he deserves every fucking success because he put in the work, and he's still putting in the work. Yeah. And it's like, and he's such a good guy. Like, yeah. So it just.
To my point earlier, like, this is the best advice I got. My godfather is the head of, like, anything that's Broadway adapted from New York to Mexico. He's the producer for them. So, amazing. Like, you know, you see the Broadway. If you go to Mexico and see a Broadway show, like, whatever, Cats, Back to the Future, anything, it says produced by Gerardo Quiros. That's my godfather, right? Amazing. So whenever I go to Mexico, I'm listening to this guy because he's got the what you think, you know, is success. I always saw him as the role model, like in terms of like what it takes as an entertainer, producer, musician. He's like, he does a lot of things, right? He's a producer is such a broad role. What it takes to really make the creative endeavors work. And the best advice he ever gave me is consistency, and contactos. Like, yeah, just your relationships.
Yeah,
100%. So, like, look at Evan, like consistent. And then when he really dove into it, it was just a matter of time.
Yeah.
So the girls who found him through, you know, like, it's just like you meet one person, then the next person. And you got to stay consistent, though. It's a discipline. It's because it's so easy.
Saying that because I was gonna ask you. This is a question I had throughout the whole conversation here. Is that like I've accidentally discovered certain work ethics with myself and like have adapted to them over the years.
Mm-hmm.
How I've my age and stuff like that. But it's like it seems like you've always had the right workflow all the way through, and I've learned this just like it's been in front of me the whole time, where it's like to me it's not a lot of it's not like you don't get opportunities by chance. It's also like you're ready for these chances. It's like you're working hard at it every day, like you said, a beat a day or beat a week.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you're putting in the reps.
Mm-hmm.
So when the creative opportunity does come, you're like bang, bang, bang. It's easy.
15 ready.
For me, it's the same with writing. So it's like the last 2 years, especially living here, I've kind of finally had a home base where I can just kind of like concentrate and get my stuff done. It's like every day I do an hour of writing, an hour of reading, an hour of like exercise or activity, an hour of emailing, stuff like that, and an hour of editing.
It's like
and
routine.
It's just like cut off on the hour. Just get as much stuff I can done
that's
in
good.
That hour.
Like a routine.
And then when I have a creative moment and a song comes, bang, I grab like it's almost like a one hit I grab.
Right.
And like after I've written it, it's maybe a little bit of drafting.
Yeah. As a creative person in any field, you have to fail a lot and quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to like, cause that's the thing that holds us back from creating.
Move on.
It's like, what if it's not good?
Yeah.
Or what if I try and I don't like it?
Move on from it.
It's just do it, and then and then you're at least in the process of not liking what you're making. You're becoming a better artist because you're cultivating that taste that we were talking about earlier that you can't really teach. You just gotta fail, like fail, work ethic, fail, and then 20% of everything you do will be amazing. 80% might be like mediocre or not good enough for your standards. Some people have incredible standards. Yeah. And like it's like you really want to cater to the fact that we're human. Mm-hmm. And the creative process is super subjective, so you gotta really make some bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like quickly, because then you can move on.
100%.
Yeah, just make the bad stuff. Just
don't
make
dwell on it.
Yeah, like do it. Like make a really bad beat, just out of practice. Get it out of the way, and then you're free to like, okay, now I can do the other thing or experiment. It's just like dwelling on that perfection is the biggest block for any artist.
Oh, it'll just eat you alive.
Yeah, it's like, but it's not good enough yet. I can't put it out. Me personally, like I'm sitting on a terabyte of footage, incredible footage that unless you have a team that can put it together and really well and orchestrate a narrative from hours of raw footage, it's just not worth just putting out a clip of just a jam. Like okay, cool. Even me, I'm not interested in that. But creating that narrative creatively is important in whatever creative endeavor, like just failing quickly, trying stuff out, just trying over and over and over and over.
Yeah. So who kind of, did you hear something from somebody? Did you hear a soundbite from somebody, or how did you learn to work like that? For me, it was just what works for some people I've seen working with me The one thing that really hit me was an interview with George Carlin, and he was like, because he didn't really become really the George Carlin that everybody liked and appreciated until he was like past 30, 35, right?
When he was grumpy.
Yeah, and just didn't give a fuck. He was like, I'm going to say what's on my mind, and I'm not worried about your feelings or your taste for this. Yeah. Because it's all subjective. Yeah. Same with comedy. It's all subjective. It's if you want to call it an art, then it's subjective, right? Yeah. So it's like, so he said something that really blew me away was like, and then because after he had it was like a floodgate, and once he went away, the material that came out was just like so much, right? And he would put out like a special a year, and that's what they're asking about. Right. How the fuck do you do this? And he said, well, the important thing is that like a lot of people get hung up on their first project with perfection. Mm-hmm. Get it done. Even if it's not perfect, right? Get it done, then get on to the next project and the next project and the next project. Yeah. Do your best, but don't dwell on the perfectionism. Yeah. But once you get out of once you complete each thing, you've learned. Yeah. So the next time you do another project, you're better and sharper. And so it's like that to me, that really hit me and triggered me into like, because I was almost finished my first album and I was hung up on like re-recording the vocals and all this shit. And it's like, no, move on. Yeah. It's like, you got it. This is how you felt at this time and you got it. Mm-hmm. And this is, it's not perfect. It's your first album. It's of course not going to be perfect, Yeah. So, and then it's like that lesson. Without that lesson, I wouldn't be able to have complete the challenge of finishing albums. Yeah. Absolutely. It's faith and courage. A weird combination of these two. Like anything in your life that's worth having is going to come out of, like, think about anything that you really want. A faith in that you can get it, and courage that because you're probably going to fail. Right? Shoot the shot. Yeah, like there's a really attractive girl, right? Yeah. She's at the bar, like it's like if you feel confident, you have the faith that you can get away with it, you'll have the courage to, strike a conversation, ask her out, whatever. I have there's also a good David Bowie quote. It's like he said he's always like when he's doing music to picture himself like in the deep end all the time. So it's like you're in the shallow end, you're safe. Mm-hmm. You're safe, you do your song and dance. Yeah. But it's like in the deep end, you're still swimming, but it's like you don't know what's down there. You're like scary. Tiptoeing is scary, but it's like that's where all the best creativity is lying. That's right. Yeah. And anyway, sorry, I meant to like ask you a question there. Yeah, that's right. But it was like, what inspired you to like, your dad? Like, so my dad graduated in 86 from acting, locutor, how do you say that? Locutor in English. Voice acting, I guess? Yeah. I don't know if there's a word. Voiceover. Sure. Yeah, that's the same thing. Voiceover. Yeah. From school from voice acting. And he told me this story because he did a lot of Cartoon Network stuff but everything leading up to the Cartoon Network stuff was just acting gigs, very small little commercial things, like literally like 80% of everything he did right up until 1994, which is when The Lion King came out, and he was Rafiki in Spanish. No way. So was just the build up to that. Yeah. Because then as soon as he got that moment, he got Android 17 and Dragon Ball. He got Mojo Jojo and the Powerpuff Girls. Holy moly. Just like in Latin America, a voice acting gig with cartoons, that means steady work. Yeah. Because episodes and series and the fans, people are obsessed with the voices of people, I'm sure you've seen a couple of videos of the Family Guy actors just maybe doing table reads. It's so interesting to me. Maybe it's I think it's a fascinating profession. Or seeing Nancy Cartwright turn into Bart to show up in your pajamas. It's pretty fantastic, like, profession. They're like exaggerating their voice to translate in a cartoon. Talk about any profession about being able to step outside of the box. Yeah, you really have to. Like, my dad he had a couple of
for Dragon Ball, he had a couple of recording sessions where he told me I needed breaks, because he'd be like,
Yeah,
just crazy. And he's friends with all the actors. Like it's kind of like a few select actors in certain eras of like that are select. Like one actor will do the voice for like Goku and like Mufasa and like whatever. It's like the recognizable voice, especially in translated stuff.
Yeah.
The same thing as in like in French and other languages, you know.
Yeah.
There's like famous voice actors that
recognizable.
Yeah, very, very talented, good at what they do. So, you know, he was friends with that circle. But he's the one who taught me that because I was born around the time that he got the success of Cartoon Network, and he married my mom, who was a dancer. Then me and my brother were born, so I only ever knew growing up like the chauffeurs and the nannies, and my dad was always in the studio. My mom was also in the dancing studio. So I was raised by like my nanny, Anna, you know, like, so in my head, I didn't know that was successful or whatever, you know? And then the reason we moved to Canada, or they moved to Canada when I was 8 years old, was because they couldn't enjoy their luxuries. You know, like, because it's dangerous, or because just the way the economy is built, it's just, there's no way to enjoy your wealth and your riches. So they moved to Canada to give me and my brother a chance with all these resources to, like, you know, make something more of a more sustainable life, you know, because over there it's a lot of hierarchy, a lot of it's a lot of nepotism, right? So they, as part of the circles, saw it very clearly and got out of there, you know. So like, it's a long way of answering your question of where did I learn the falling forward is the best way to do it. My dad, because like he told me when I was like, you know, old enough to ask him, like, what were you doing like leading up to all these cartoons? Because I grew up in the studio watching him. It was just my dad's job, you know. I didn't think too much about it until people were like, your dad is like this and that, and I'm like, oh, okay, people think that's cool. To me, it's just his job.
Your dad's going to work,
right? And it's so trippy because you'll get fan mail still for like Android 17. Oh, like, I love your voice. He was Tuxedo Mask in Sailor Moon. Those cool. People are crazy. You know, because he got like, he showed me, he's got 175 TikTok followers, or 175,000 TikTok followers.
That's insane. I was friends with a guy, his uncle or his dad did Dr. Claw and Inspector Gadget. Iconic.
But it's like a celebrity on a very small scale, I guess. So he taught me a lot of the social, without even teaching me, he taught me the social aspect of the entertainment industry, because he was a voice actor, an engineer. He had a studio, he had an assistant, he had the chauffeur.
So he must have his own studio at home. And
he has a studio at home. He still does voice acting. He does stuff now for pharmaceutical stuff in the US. Oh, nice. So he gets US dollars, and it's pharmaceutical. It's never going away. Oh yeah. It's Claritin, and then he'll say something in like Spanish, like esto in español.
The quick
Right, so he's just a voice actor, so that's what he does. And
that's amazing.
He taught me a lot about the
so he's self-made, you know.
Well, here's a big part of being an entertainer and making it a business is the social aspect of it. No one can teach you that.
Yes, because you have to live it.
Yeah. Like, you can go to school for 10 years and become a doctor in your fucking field of engineering and acoustician, and you know technically how everything works. But if you're like a super self-contained person who doesn't like want to look at people, or, you know, like just awkward, or maybe it just doesn't resonate with what you're trying to do. Right. So it's like, I learned that subconsciously through my mom and my dad being just artists. All their interactions as a kid, I always saw how like they were so, in a good way, they were so different when I saw them in a group of like wealthy people. I remember a very young memory of mine was like, oh, like they're kind of like changing, and I was like, that's interesting. Like I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, other than like observing how my mom talks to me, like, oh, I like, like, and then she like change. She's like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Like the demeanor, the tone of voice. I was like, wow, that's like a different person. It's very interesting. Is that what an adult is being like?
Yeah.
And then my dad too. Like they're actors and a dancer. Like it's all relationships. It's all a lot of thank yous, a lot of grace, a lot of humility, a lot of because if you're not going anywhere.
Oh, exactly.
Right? It's like they were doing it as a profession, and it taught me a lot of stuff that can't be taught just by observing like people, which were my parents, doing it. And then, they were both in different industries, but creative, My mom was doing ballet and arts and dancing. And then my dad was like voice acting and acting. Yeah. And they both knew Gerardo Quiros, which is my godfather.
That's crazy.
Then that's why he was my godfather. They were both friends with him individually. And it's a whole ecosystem of like, it's really cool to still see movies in Spanish, like the Avengers movie, and see my aunt is the casting director for a lot of these people.
Oh, amazing!
So I'll see casting directing by Gaby Cárdenas, and then a couple like Oscar Bonfilio and like Ricardo Bruce, and I keep seeing like some names. I'm like, oh, they're still doing it. That's kind of cool. Just out of curiosity, once in a while when I'm seeing anything in Spanish, I'll be like, oh, like I wonder if I recognize any of those names because of my dad.
That's sick.
So I learned a lot of stuff without him even meaning to teach me, just by example.
Yeah, that's the best way. Kind of just absorbing it, sponging it.
Yeah, I was blessed to be born into it a little bit.
That's cool. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, it's a journey. I feel like this creative whole endeavor is really important for, I hope maybe that's what you hope to do with this podcast, is spread the word of why people are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I wanted to just listen. Really.
It's just, pretty interesting to see the inspiration, where it comes from. Like,
I
really support what you're doing here.
Be, in the scene still, without being in the scene,
I see. Yeah, like, if you can, it's a different type of energy investment.
Yeah, and I don't really, honestly, I don't have a lot of time to go out and be in the scene because I work at night most nights,
Mm-hmm. It's mostly musicians you're interviewing, right?
Yeah, but mainly when I first started, my buddy did a couple with me, and I would like to do some other subjects too. Okay,
cool. Yeah, musicians are people.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like the thing I like about it is almost each guest, there's like some sort of like connection.
Mm-hmm.
There's always some sort of like
meeting point,
which is kind of cool. So I think that as the nucleus alone is a driver.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's also kind of like helping me expand my own community within the GTA.
That's amazing.
And it's like I did this festival in August here down at the beaches.
Oh yeah. And jazz festival?
No, I was like right after the jazz festival. I made my own one day show.
No way! Wow, and that's amazing.
Insurance through the city, and I got the noise permit through the city.
Congrats! That's huge. That's really cool.
It was a huge stepping stone for me this year, because I've spoken about this on other podcasts. It just it was very hard for me to even make a dent or even get any emails back for any festivals across Canada. And
why do you think?
There's a lot of reasons. There's the slang. Hughes and I were talking about this in the last podcast. It's basically like different gatekeepers. Hip hop's not really represented too much across Canada in festivals and stuff like that, and also kind of like it's just like a lot of the same artists or same styles are kind of picked all the time. Right. So it's like a lot of them are afraid to do stuff that's new and different. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And scary. Like
take a risk.
Take risks, like we talked about. So anyways, I just kind of decided I know all the aspects and the facets of it. I work with some of the best production people in the country.
Wow.
I'm gonna do my own. So
That's amazing, dude.
threw it out there. I got some sponsors in the neighborhood. I got up with Long McQuaid on Danforth.
Yep.
I got Bud's Coffee here.
That's incredible.
The Fox Theater.
That's really cool.
And I just got my expenses paid, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And all the artists played for free, so thank goodness.
Holy.
Like, friendship with
lots
of great
hearing
artists.
I've done similar stuff, but I have a venue, so it'd be very interesting to join forces one day and do a showcase with, because you have 51 artists to pick from, right? Yeah to just invite, because like you have all this network. Your network is your net worth, you know. You can give back and be part of the scene by creating it, maybe.
Yeah,
I feel like you have a lot of resources.
Waves too, like as you know, as an artist and a creator, everything is like waves, and like I found, to me, it's like I'm doing this part for like this amount of months, and then I'm gonna do this part for like this amount of months. Yeah, and it's like I feel I did so much in the lockdown, like production wise. Like I accumulated a lot of ideas and thoughts and songs written and stuff like that. And now it's like, it's been so long since I put anything out. Now the pressure cooker is like ready to explode. So it's like, I'm almost done my new album. It's like 80% done.
Nice.
So
what's left?
Dave and I have been working together since 2008. So he's worked with me on all my projects. We've transferred all the files, basically. Okay. It's about 13 tracks, and so all the stems we've transferred over. So now it's kind of going back to our mixes. Cool. Our sample mixes, and kind of getting the same mix, and then dialing in and then we're just like cleaning up the trash of just like all the unwanted licks and just space. Cleaning out all the dead airspace. And then what I'm doing is, and what I've learned with other albums is like, you work so hard at it, you don't want to blow yourself out at the end, especially when it comes to promoting it's such a fucking crazy balance of chaos. The way I do it, it's just like, it was almost backwards the way I did it this time. It was like I made all these lyrics, and then I started getting beats together, and it's just a wild combination of different things. But now I have like second draft of all the lyrics, so I'm gonna be able to print all the lyrics out and then have the instrumentals done like 80%, and then I'm just gonna take that with me, and I'm going away to Thailand for a month.
That's amazing. When?
February. And I'm just going to take that with me. Yeah. And sit on it and just listen to it while not do anything. Nice. All the edits will start building up in my head. Yeah, with a clear head. I'm not going to come with any, thing to write it down with. And then while I'm out there, I'm just going to get a shitload of crazy good footage. And
that's amazing. That's a good idea.
New videos in Thailand for the next.
Wicked.
And release, and then when I get back, I'll be refreshed, and then Dave and I are going to go back to the vocals, and then start recording the vocals, and then once we have that, and then everything just becomes a little patched up each day.
That's great.
And then what I want to do is that I've worked with my buddy Slang before, and he's done a lot of production, and the last album I did was I threw out a single, and that was like, he just gave me the beat, and I just did it the way I don't normally do it. I just freestyle on it, took the best stuff for the freestyle, and then put it on there, and then I made a video of like how to freestyle. Oh, sick. And then I just threw it out there, and then I put that single out, and then I put my album out. Okay. So I think I'm going to do the same thing with like 2 singles. So I have one with him that I'm just going to throw out, and then I'm going to put another one out, and then the new album's going to come out. And then I would like to do a collab with you and
that'd be cool.
Certain other producers, and just like bang, just gonna, once I get back I have a feeling once I get back from Thailand, it's just gonna be like like hit the hammer hard.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna like dump a lot of tracks, get ready to be, you know.
Yeah, I think the creative process, because it's so long and you have to like, you know, record, mix, master, listen back, and then the final recording, and then the final mix, and then the final master, right? And then just submitting it to playlist and the distribution, and then if you want to do publishing, and then intellectual property if you're collabing, splits, you know, it's a lot. The only way to do it properly is with a team.
Yes.
Because if you do it all yourself, maybe you'll do the creative part perfectly. Yeah. And then you spend so much time and energy. And at that point, you do not want to keep focusing on the song that you're done with. It's done. Yeah. You know, and it's like you're the baker and you also have to sell the cake, and also have to like you know, serve like literally like everything, right? But and you're tasting it every step of the way, you know. It's like it's really important to have support. Like you have your buddy, was it Dave? Yeah. He probably, you guys you have a chemistry, you work well together.
Dave, I would not be able to do this. He lets me, he doesn't even charge me. We sit
That's crazy.
in the studio
That's amazing.
all day, but it's like we're hanging out, and it's like 2.5 hours before
it's
we
genuine.
Get to anything.
Yeah, it's very genuine.
It's just like
that's the best way to capture that like authentic energy that we were talking about, that people resonate as good music, you know, like the atmosphere of the studio is so important. It's like it's everything, because you're capturing a moment, you know. It's like the way someone says anything can be said in 1,000 ways.
I made this album is important to me too, because it's like my second one. My second one was, I wanted to prove, because I started making beats, like I said, when like 98. I was a producer up until like 2008, and I dabbled like on a verse here and there, but I didn't really start rapping until like 10 years into it. Wow. So I was late into it, like 29, 30. So the second album for me was very important, because I wanted to prove to myself that I can make beats from scratch again. Right. But my problem is, the biggest problem I had was getting past the actual beat. Like I didn't have good beat structure. Right. I couldn't play drums.
Or the loop.
Just the loop. But I had to spend so many hours on just like assembling it, because I didn't have the proper structure. Skills, got you. So I would get so frustrated and hung up on this a lot of the time. So I went and I bought an Akai driver. Nice. And I was like, finally, this is something I've wanted for years. You can like play around with it. And it's like only $200, because it wasn't the MPC player. Right. It was just the controller. Yeah. The controller. So I started like making my own beats, and then I tidied them up. And then I would go in and tidy them up and just like make a good loop out of it, right? Nice, yeah. And then I started playing with pads and that. So then half the beats I made on Bad Beat, or 3 or 4 of them, were done by me. There was another producer I met in Europe. He did a couple of them. Ashton Price, who's a great producer, he did a couple of them. So it was like a collaboration. So this album coming up is the same thing. And I most importantly, I just wanted to use with what I had. Last album, I paid a lot of money. Damn. But it sounds like I paid a lot of money. Right. That's good. Yeah. I paid. At least you got what you paid for. I got Brian Fontes in to drum. He's like a rock drummer. So we did rock, and then I got like all musicians in. I paid them all. Like I pay out musicians. That's incredible. So I got a lot of great musicians in, and I paid for it, and I paid Ashton for studio time. But I'm like, this one, I'm going to fucking do it all, and I'm going to use what I have. So basically, I got the Akai machine again, and I sat in the other room there, and I started making beats with just feeling, and I was just like getting the feeling, and I'm like, this is the most important part. This is don't get hung up on like, that's a bad loop, but just go through it, just burn through it. Yeah. So I was doing that, and I got like a fucking 30 beats. Wow. And I just like sat back, and I'm like, I have a ton of beats. And before that, I wrote so much over the lockdown. Yeah. And I met this producer online and he's from Ohio, and he's like 20 years old,
Mm.
and he's just like a factory making beats.
Wow.
So him and I hooked up, and he would send me a beat a day for like 3 months.
Damn.
I would open it up, and that would be the first time I hear it, right, exactly what I heard. So that was an exercise for like 3 months.
Inspiration, immediately
So I
creating.
had like two books like this over the lockdown. So
Wow.
I read through all of them,
Crazy.
got sticky notes. I have like 105 PDFs these are the ones that made the cut. And then I've gone through all of those, found a dozen that had the same theme. So that's what my album is.
Oh,
so
okay.
I still have another like
Cool
90
Wow.
ones that I can go through.
Yeah.
Also, I still haven't stopped writing.
That's
so
great.
It's like there's still like this of 2024 that I haven't typed out.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't stopped for me.
That's
so
right.
Now
That's
it's
great.
like
That's amazing.
I have to make some tracks before it all kind of gets away.
Maybe, yeah, I would encourage you to like lean into the AI to expedite the process of getting all of these stuff in your vault out of there, so you can liberate your mind from the to-do list and really just keep that creative process up, because it's hard to do that you just explained, and then also put it through distribution and then sign up, get your IRSC code, put it on SOCAN, like.
And I just, through the lockdown, I tidied up all that shit. And I also, because I got hooked up with a publishing company in Montreal.
Oh, cool.
Out of my second album.
Which one? What company?
They're called Presstown.
Presstown, okay, cool.
And it's not going to go positive.
Oh, okay, gotcha. We'll edit their name out after.
It was that, and then it was, I can't remember his other name, but this guy, I paid him like $2,500, but they did the bare minimum.
Oh, damn.
And I was like, give me the contacts, I'll fucking do it.
Right.
But now I learned a lot through that. I basically like through the last couple of years, I've been able to do my own publishing. And what I did is I found a guy here in Toronto who does all the like tedious record label shit.
Oh, okay.
So I got him to make me spreadsheets of contacts of
nice.
Like
that's awesome.
touring contacts, DJ contacts, radio station contacts, press contacts. So
that's
it was
very
just taking
very
my
handy.
emails that I had already,
yeah.
And now I got to update it from the last 3 years that I've done.
Right.
So I've learned how to do my own radio press.
Okay.
But that's another AI thing, you know?
Yeah.
And even the booking gigs, that's another AI
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Like,
implementing is the best
shit.
way so that you can make the creative process
free. Yeah.
And the actual monetizing of it the easiest possible, you know? You got to do all these things. If you want to make money from it and you don't have like a PRO, and if you don't even know what a PRO is, like it's kind of like you need to, there's certain things they're not going to teach you unless you go looking for that information, whether it's a book or a business school or whatever. But you need to register it through BMI or SOCAN in order to collect royalties whenever it gets played on the radio. Because if, you know, like...
I learned all that, not all of it, like, but I like learned quite a bit of it through the lockdown. And I was doing Song Trust had online tutorials a week. So I was like
every week.
Every week I was learning shit, and I wrote it out too, like a class. Like I took it like I'm getting a free fucking class.
Yeah, basically.
So I was learning as I was going, and actually through my own projects, trial and error. And the last album was a lot of trial and error. I've learned of seeing it done properly, and then the outcome of the pay, and like where it's effective. You know what I mean? So it's like,
and what's not worth your time.
Yeah, exactly. So for example, like my first album, I barely made, you know, I'd say a couple $100 on streaming and album sales. The second album, you could say maybe like $500-600. This last album, a couple $1,000. So it's like,
that's decent growth.
And I just started doing the streaming with the third album.
Wow.
So I just figured that out.
That's cool.
And then I learned that my second album, this guy, this publishing company, registered my shit through a back door
without you,
without me fucking.
Wow.
And he is the one who got me a meeting with a couple guys at Sony in like 2018.
Wow.
And it was like BMI or something, a branch through Sony, and it was just scuzzy office up on Spadina.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and saw this guy, and he was just like a shyster of a shyster. And I got the deal, and it was a total like 50-50 back end deal.
Wow.
Where it was like the 50% cut coming from my side, I'd have to pay for everything. And they wanted like a 50-50 percentage deal with Spotify for 8 years.
Whoa.
And I only had 2 albums at the time, and they were gonna like get 50% of the profits for 8 years.
That's
but
crazy.
They were gonna put me in like the search categories. And then I looked.
That's
so
a lot of work for not a whole lot of return.
A lot, exactly. So I looked at it and I was like, I don't know about this. And luckily, my buddy Roger, who does a lot of my guitar and keyboards, is very well versed in copyright law and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. You need some people like
that.
that.
So he read it,
yeah.
and he's like, "This is like you'd be paying for all. You're getting fucked here.
Yeah.
This is a setup. It's getting fucked." So I was like, politely, rejected it, and I declined it, and I said thanks for no thanks. And then I removed myself from this publishing company that did nothing for me.
Damn.
And
live and learn.
Yeah, so I learned a lot, and I learned through so many other people that like I trusted, that I gave money to, like this one lady. I'm not gonna say her name, but she does a lot of shows in the city, and I gave her money to do social media, and she absolutely sucked at it.
Damn.
So I asked for the money back, and she just gave me this runaround, and shows that she wanted me to give like a third of the door to me.
Whoa.
And I'd be like, no thanks, I'm good. So I've been burned by every way you can think of.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of part of why I do everything myself, which is not great. But I do have a lot of great help in different ends. It's just I need to give more responsibility to other people to help me.
Delegating is not easy.
No, it's not.
It's a lot of trust, and especially in this industry, it's really, really common to get discouraged to even grow as a company, because you have to delegate and trust people that usually they're your friends.
Yeah.
That's how it starts,
That's
right?
the toughest.
And then you realize, oh, okay, when money starts coming in, or when there's contracts, or when there's any power dynamic where it switches, things get tricky, and you do lose friends doing the wrong business with the wrong person.
It's funny you said that, because our mutual friend we were talking about before, she was asking me about stuff like that, because I was learning that, and I was like regurgitating it to her. It's like in the lockdown, you're only speaking to X
so many
amount of
people, yeah.
But when you're those X amount of people, you're talking to every day. So it's like I was telling her what I was learning, and it's fascinating, right? And then I was like, because she was starting a band, and I was like, you should. I was trying to tell her.
I know all about the band.
Oh yeah.
I have so many recordings, and right there in my computer from.
There's 100 stories.
Yeah.
But we won't. This will be off camera.
Yeah.
I don't want to say anything bad or get myself in trouble.
No, for sure. We're deep in the podcast. Yeah, no names.
So she was like this and that, and I said, listen, as much as you're friends with people, you still have to get this in writing, and it has to be clear. You have to be 100% clear of like, and what's fair.
Yeah.
Like if you wrote it, and I was encouraging her a lot. Like I said, you wrote it, you pertain and own 100% of the publishing.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote it all.
Yeah.
Unless you get in the studio and somebody's helping you rewrite it.
Right.
Now we're talking about variables and wherever the percentage pie goes, that's up to you.
Yeah.
But I said, there's fair, and then there's like, and I told her this, I said, you have to be kind of cutthroat sometimes.
Just firm. And just what's fair, right? Yeah.
So, and it's like, I've done that before, and And I was just saying to her, and also sometimes it's like if you work with somebody and you make a project, don't be afraid to cut them out of it because it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't have to be. You don't have to do it just because like you're friends with the person. It's like think of the art first, right? So I was just telling her about like percentages, and she's like, "No, everything we're gonna do 25% because there's 4 artists, 4 band members, and we're gonna split everything 25%." And I was just like,
"Sure,
good luck with that."
Yeah.
I was like, "Good luck with that," and I'm like, "Cause there's you." I'm like, "Yeah, you can do that with the composition, which is fine."
Yeah.
But you also arranged it. So it's like there's so many components to it that you and I'm like seeing how much work she's putting into it.
Yeah.
And then I was like,
yeah, well, like very
and then it all happened and it all
common.
happened after and it was
common.
like and then I don't want to say like no dragging on, but it's like I had this idea of having her on my album on the AM Grinding one. And to me it was just like I wanted to make a simple album that was like not overproduced, and what I do is I overproduce and then I scale back. That's the way I make a lot of my stuff. It's like I make too much and then I'm like
sculpt it out,
pull it back, and what's left reveal, right?
Yeah, art is deduction.
Exactly. And she's amazing, like she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
I told her she's like one of my favorite, not just like as a
singer,
ex-girlfriend. Like she's amazing artist, singer, expressive, amazing. So I brought her in the studio, this amazing studio on King Street, and then she did 2 tracks, but it was just like too much, over the top,
I have a
and it was over the top
yeah.
of like, and I wasn't gonna tell her to dial it down, you know.
Well, that's where you could have.
I did. But there was a lot of other stuff mixed.
Yeah, that's where it gets tricky.
Right?
When the other relationship bleeds into the creative part, or vice versa.
Yeah, and then I was
it's like, what did you mean when we were in the studio and you told me to dial it back? What do you not like what I do? Like,
And then, but it was with. I'll tell you the 2 tracks. It was with Fear and True Story, Fool's Glory. So the one with Fear, she was singing over the trumpet part, and me and Ashton worked out this trumpet. It's almost like a Spudiopadocialist, the Outcast one.
Oh yeah,
the horns.
Yeah.
It's so great as just the horns, and then I thought, I'm like, her singing over it is just masking this great work we did with all the horns. So I decided to cut her out with that. And then the other one was True Story, where it was like it made it too long. It made it like into an 8-minute track. So it was like I had to scale it back, kind of cut her part out.
Right.
And then I was like, the way she's singing, it's not really representing what I'm
trying to communicate
about, you know?
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal
take
contribution she had to it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, to me, it was just like not part of it.
You had a vision and it didn't match it, and that's
fine.
And
then it came down to the decision, and then I was like, well, she's my ex now, and I don't want to deal with copyright stuff.
Yeah,
and so
I've been in such a similar situation.
So I made a decision, and I was just like, I don't want to deal with it, so I just cut it out completely.
Damn.
And it was, so there's a version with her out there somewhere.
That's amazing.
Anyways.
Yeah, no, the creative process gets a lot of relationships really mixed, because again, subjectivity is all based around opinion and consciousness is so chaotic.
Yeah.
It's so like I'm sure if we talk long enough, we'll find something where we disagree, because we're human.
1,000%.
We have to. Yeah. Otherwise, you don't think independently, right?
No.
And it's really creative. It's I guess it's there's a lot of conflict that can come from forgetting that sometimes the creative process has to serve itself.
Well, I didn't want to collaborate with her because we were together.
Oh, right. Yeah, because of that. I
didn't want to mix that with,
It's a lot of chaos.
Yeah.
Because it's like when it works because it's natural and you're so in line with the same vision that you don't have to correct it because it is so in the same page.
Yeah.
And that's rare. You got your Yoko Onos and John Lennon's out there, but like, it's not common.
But she.
Yeah.
In my opinion, she fucked up a lot of shit.
But independently of whatever she did to the culture, like John Lennon was happy. I think.
Yeah.
who knows, right?
I don't know.
But like he chose her.
Is that? Do you remember that? Did you see that footage? Is it like John Lee Hooker? No, I can't remember. But
No.
it's like a famous blues artist with Yoko and John in the studio.
Oh yeah, and it's
and she's just, it's a great jam. And then in the middle, she's just like,
yeah, it's
and
cringe.
he's looking at her like, he's looking at John like,
Get
for real?
Get your girl.
Control this woman. Do I have to unplug the mic here?
Hey yo.
And it's just like, can you not hear that? But
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the whole point is that relationships and creativity are tricky to balance. It's almost like a work balance, because there's some aspect of creativity that is kind of like work.
Well, there's feelings involved too, because it's like
work with emotions.
This is a tricky balance too, because it's like, if you're in a relationship with somebody and you have to be critique art.
That's true. That's
tough.
tricky.
You can't say like,
oh, I don't like that so much.
Honesty, you know, like, there's a fine line between the honesty and maybe just like biting your tongue, and also it's like,
I discovered this on a mushroom trip actually one time.
Where you discovered
I was doing a recording with a friend.
Yeah.
And I for the first time recognized the thought of me about to give criticism. I'm like, oh, I know that they're not gonna like this, and then I just really quickly had the insight of connotations.
Yeah.
Like, you understand what I'm saying almost immediately, because you have a lifetime of building connotations with words. Mm-hmm. So you understand them without thought. You just understand the phonetics of my voice. So I was thinking deep. I'm recording and I'm like, oh, what combination of sounds can I make to translate my idea to get him to help himself?
Yeah.
I really thought about it, and I actually with enough thought, and you listen for long enough, there's a window. There's as long as you're waiting for it, there's a window where they're like, what do you think? Okay. They just opened up this window without you having to hey, I think you should. No.
Yeah,
they're like, wait, what do you think? Okay, this is my time. Oh, maybe try this. Maybe instead of giving your opinion, instead of giving a problem, you solution question mark. And I found that's the best way to capture the energy. Just keep trying, because maybe sometimes they have to try.
They might have not even looked at yet.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's why
instead of discouraging, it's almost kind of just like, here's,
what about this path?
Look at this door.
Yeah, or try something else, maybe. There's some psychologist out there, I forget who it was, but I remember hearing somewhere that when someone critiques something about your self-identity, it's psychologically a similar feeling to danger or an attack.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
It's your identity in a way.
Yeah, it's there's this very protective thing we've built through evolution, it's part of the ego.
Yeah.
But it's in order to boundaries when you know that there's some harm, very subconsciously, or maybe an undertone of if someone's being critical at you without the feedback being warranted, there's this immediate, good or bad feedback, there's this immediate
mechanism
naturally, right? Yeah. So I was high on mushrooms, just discovering it in my own brain. I'm like, wow, even I have that. Yeah. When people tell me oh, what I didn't even ask them, and oh, what if you change this and this and that, and I want to go into why not.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I stopped getting too into the defensive part as soon as I recognized it.
Yeah.
But I was only able to do that because I had a lot of freedom with growing up around so many musicians, and especially early on when I wasn't charging much for recording, I was down to try stuff hey, why don't you try screaming that? Try just screaming what you just said, or stop reading it. I don't believe you. Let me feel what you felt when you wrote it. What's that feeling? Let's capture that. and then you get them excited, or you get them pumped, or you get them.
It's encouraging because you're working with somebody that's like into it as much as you are.
Yeah, and it's tough to find maybe like your friend, that connection where you have that ability to go into that place, and it's not. It takes courage and faith.
Well, Dave and I have been through an interesting journey because it's like I had produced for my buddy for 10 years and I was in the seat of like engineering and kind of, but Dave had all the experience of mastering and like patching like all the proper way of doing it.
Right.
I've just had like the cowboy way of doing it. And to me, be on the other side, it took a long time for like me to translate what I wanted to him as like, because he never recorded the way that I did it, it was always like tracking with a band and like,
rehearsed parts
and then do it. To me, this is like a lot of creativity, chaos that we're trying to capture.
Yeah, throw shit at the fan, whatever sticks.
Sorting the pile after.
Yeah.
So that was like, and then also like learning myself to be on the other side of like the mic, be on the mic, because it's like
a different type of craft.
Different type of craft.
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
Type of preparation. Yeah. And
different mentality for sure.
Yeah, so it's been lucky we've grown together, and I do still a majority of the recording, and I with just this little guy.
The Focusrite.
Yeah, and I was watching a house, my buddy Ryan's house, a couple streets over, and we recorded most of the AM grinding there, and my buddy Roger would come over every weekend for like 2 months. And I rented a Nord 3 stage keyboard.
Oh yeah,
and
so
for
sick.
2 months.
Weighted keys, really good. I love that one.
And so we had already had the drums and bass for everything, and I went to Ashton's, and Ashton I sat on the couch and was like, I want that part as the bridge and this, and he was just like.
So live music, like live instruments.
It was all live instruments.
Wow, I love that.
But I sat back, and instead of me blowing my brains out of like trying to put the pieces together, I just paid Ashton. I'm like, here's $100 for the day.
Nice.
And he's just like, yeah, that's a good fill. And he's just like wizard, like editor, saving me hours and hours and hours. To me, that's the value of paying him, of his expertise. And then I'm like, oh shit, we need a bass line there, and he's like pulls out the bass and like,
that's sick.
I'm like, okay, I'll add $100 to the day.
Adaptable, really quick,
right?
Yeah, on the fly.
And then he helped me like push a lot of the artists. So I would schedule this artist, May. She's like unbelievable saxophone player. It's like little tiny Japanese girl, and I know her ability, and I was like, this is the way I do it for musicians. I don't send them the beat, like the backtrack. I wait till they get to the studio, and I play about like 3 of them. I disguise the beat in like 3 different beats.
Okay.
And I was like, what one do you like?
Cool.
And it's usually their facial reaction is the one that I was thinking. So, I just invited musician after musician over, and then Ashton was able to like
sort through it,
get it through quickly. I was hands free from all that stuff.
That's amazing.
To be able to be like, let's do another take of that.
Yeah, the creative force behind
it freed me up, and I was able to get 3 hooks, like written on the fly in the studio.
That's amazing because you were inspired.
And so I was just like, oh, and there was one song we rushed, and it's cool. The song's called "Take It to the Lab." So it's like getting that lightning in a bottle and taking it. You're getting that emotion and taking it to the first take. Yeah,
capturing it. It takes a team.
Yeah,
and it takes chemistry.
So I was like doing the hook. I was writing the hook, and I was like, it's like, can you come up with a bass line? And we both kind of like got the hook and the bass line together as this was happening. So I had some money, but now this one, it's like I'm pretty proud of it, because it's like I went through with a lot of my own trial and error making beats again, and I've also hooked up with this producer from Ohio, so I'm taking 2 of his.
Cool.
And then I'm also there's like it's like 3 or 4 producers that are kind of combined in this.
Cool,
this
man.
And then all of it's MIDI.
Okay.
But like I basically did it through Ableton.
Nice.
And I heard this quote and it just aligned with me. And this producer, I don't know who said it. It might have been.
It was probably Rick Rubin.
No,
Just
no,
playing.
it's not this good. Probably. He said, make your beats with Ableton and do your lyrics with Logic. And I'm like, this is what I've been doing. This is my game plan for this album.
That's great. That's really good.
So it's all Ableton beats, and so I had so there's separate rooms downstairs, and it's got a lot of ambient sound.
Cool.
So I had a violin play over. I had a trumpet play.
Wow,
over.
that's sick.
So I've done all the recording of the musicians here in this house.
That's dope.
And then so I bring it to Dave's, and Dave and I have been like massaging everything. And,
wow.
It's getting close.
It's a whole process. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's been great chatting with you, my friend.
Yeah. Honestly, very enlightening conversation.
I think this is the longest. This might be the longest podcast.
How long have we been going?
2 hours and that camera's dead. That's how long we've been going for.
Yeah, I don't.
2 hours and 45 minutes.
That did not feel like that at all.
Yeah, no, it's great.
There's like I'm sure we can still have so much to talk about.
Oh yeah, there's so much.
It's crazy how small the world is.
Well, it's funny. Everything's really kind of connected, and it's interesting when I started talking to Earl, and like he was telling me about like these places on Gary Street, and I was like, bro, I grew up there. I was like, and I also hung out there 20 years ago.
Yeah.
When I moved back to the city and started kind of hanging out. So where that brick is there used to be no gates in the back where the
parking lot?
The parking lot is, or where the dump is, like garbage.
Yeah.
And there was no fence to like go on the railroad tracks.
Oh,
there.
true. Yeah.
It was fucking.
That's messy.
I lived with some wild motherfuckers, man, and it was like co-op housing, like fatherless homes, and just like we were like the Little Rascals, like a whole fucking group.
That area's been gentrified for sure.
Oh,
it's a different area now.
So I grew up there. Yeah, I grew up there, and like I spent my childhood up in Piccinini. And
JJP.
We used to. He's crazier. That hill that goes down
Earl's Court
onto Davenport. Mm-hmm. There used to be no fence there.
Oh wow!
We used to ride our fucking toboggans
down,
and there were
into the streets.
There were no, almost onto the streets. We would almost skid. Some kids would fucking almost got hit by cars there. Sometimes we were, and you know, Regal Road. When you see that, there's like a walk. It's all grown over now.
Up the hill,
That used to be a walkway.
Yep. That used to be my smoke spot. Yeah,
so
back in 2011.
We were bad motherfuckers in school. We used to throw snowballs from up there
to the street,
to the fucking street, bro. We hit a TTC bus one time, and the fucking dude. It was like right near the end of recess. The dude parked the bus, and we're like, we're fucked. We ran back to class. This dude came to class.
No way.
Yo, and he's like, those motherfuckers. Like
he saw you.
The whole class basically.
Wow.
We got like it.
That's funny.
80s was wild. We were crazy motherfuckers.
Regal Road, it's a small world.
It was crazy fucking. So I shot my very first music video I did was called Piece of Paradise, and so me and my buddy had done music for 10 years, and him and I had just like hit this wall that we decided to just like not do anything creatively anymore and just like be friends and just leave it alone. But I was super hungry, and like I went out by the lake writing all the time, and I was just like, I started to get a bunch of ideas, but there wasn't like something concrete that like made me like, this is the artist I'm gonna be. Right. And then I went with my buddy who was like a professional journalist, and we went down to the G20, and I learned from him how to conduct yourself as like real journalist, neutral, don't be on anybody's side.
Just
You're
capturing.
capture shit
Yeah.
and get out.
Yeah.
Don't cause. So that I learned a
G20
lot
was
from,
crazy.
That was the Saturday. No, I worked on the Saturday where the car got lit up
On fire, yeah.
and then I went. That was the Sunday morning. I went with him, and then the Sunday night everything went bonkers. And I had a little camera like this, and I got all my own footage.
Wow.
And
You still
me-
have that?
Oh, I all the footage.
That's
I have.
crazy.
So I was with my buddy at King and University.
Oh, okay.
When that cop was in the kid's face saying, "This ain't Canada anymore." I have the other angle of that.
Wow.
And we were there, and I just was rolling, and I already knew, because I was already a news shooter. I had done news before, so I already knew anywhere on the sidewalk you can shoot. It's all public domain, right? Unless you go on private property.
Got you.
Then they can press charges. And so I knew all the rules as a shooter. And I had also my Maple Leafs pass on me. So I worked for the Leafs. And
Oh, nice.
I had this press pass on me.
That's
too.
helpful.
So I was down there, and I got caught on Queen Street between Spadina and University when they trapped everybody in, and they started moving in and picking everybody off. They had fucking vans that were throwing people in.
Yeah.
So I got all this footage, and then I also made a beeline for it to the Osgood station there.
Yeah.
And these cops stop me, and I'm rolling, and he's like, you can't, you're like, you gotta come in the paddy wagon. I'm like, no, you can't do that. I said, this is illegal. I said, you set up a fake law that was from 1940 that it's illegal. You can't do this. And then he's like, you have any idea? And I showed him the press passes. Like I got let go.
Just like that, eh?
And then I just went. But there's other people there. Anyways, I got all this footage, and it basically I wrote the song when I got home, and it was like almost barely any editing. So it like kind of became me as an artist, right? And then when I first started shooting the video, I had all this footage, and then I learned how to rip footage from YouTube and then upload it to HD.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so you could, before you'd be able to rip it and then upload it to a decoder.
Oh, okay.
And rebrand without it being traced. This is before it could have like tags on videos. So I was able to rip a bunch of footage. Anyways, that was the first video I did and song I did. And I went up the Regal Road on the top of the road. It was like beautiful view like behind a fence. So it was like perfect view of like Toronto, but like a fence in front of it.
Nice.
And it was like, perfect
B-roll.
art. Yeah, perfect. But I did all the performance shots by myself.
Yeah.
Because I learned how to do news hits, set them up for reporters by myself.
Through your work.
Through my work a long time ago. So I did all the performance shots, set them up by myself, and I performed to them with a light and a proper camera.
Wow.
And I found these, I don't know if you remember by Keele Station, when you're taking the subway, there would be there's some sick fucking, there's really amazing murals. There's one of like a bear and a wolf.
Super colorful.
So I got these really colorful ones of these animals like attacking.
That's
so I did
cool.
like my hits in front of there, and I went in front of Queen's Park, and then I was with my cousin, and this is right after the G20, so I went to City Hall, and I had City Hall in the background, and I told him, stand behind the camera, and I was like, just watch for somebody with a walkie-talkie or a vest or something.
Wow.
And then I said, let me know, just give me a signal so I'll wrap up.
Right.
I'll wrap up the one video, like the one take. So by the time they got there, I was like, oh, I'm sorry, we're done. You know, don't need to.
Wow.
So this is a lesson for if like you want to do guerrilla style, just like be on the watch out for anybody coming around, but get as much as you can done, and then just like play dumb. Yeah. Like you just say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you didn't need to shoot.
Get out of there.
Just like get out. A good camera op is like, shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah, so or apologize later.
Yeah, you're sorry.
Sorry. So,
yeah. Anyways, I didn't mean to ramble on like that.
And that's the creative process, you know?
I did the same thing out of COVID, and as soon as that announcement happened, like my journalism instincts kicked in, grabbed my camera, and I went for 3 weeks for 7 hours a day, B-roll everywhere around Toronto.
That's
and
crazy.
Just like
that's amazing.
everything quiet. And I thought in my head, I'm like,
eerie.
You'll never get footage like this ever again.
Yeah, that's true.
And I went everywhere. I went, the Eaton Center was empty.
Whoa.
Like, GO Train, empty.
Trippy.
Union Station, empty.
That's good B-roll.
Yonge Street, empty.
That is weird.
Like, all the way down the line, Queen Street, empty.
That's very
during
weird.
the day, like all this shit. So I grabbed to the point of I exhausted myself.
Ghost town.
Yeah, and I got all this footage, and so yeah, I was talking to the Riches, and I thought how cool it was how they use a lot of B-roll in their live performances.
Yeah.
And I seen other artists do stuff like that. So I'm upping my, like the last album, I really stepped up the level with the band. So I have a band and like did a ton of shows.
Sick, man.
And this one I want to kind of go back to a little bit of solo performing and still have the band like when I can.
Right. Maybe the more hip hop vibes.
Yeah, exactly. With just like one live musician maybe, but I want to incorporate a lot of like projector B-roll.
Art.
More art, AV art incorporated.
That's sick.
To like really get everybody encapsulated into
Yeah,
the moment.
immersive.
And I have all this B-roll. It's like every video I've
That's
done,
pretty
I have
cool.
B-roll of it too. So
That's
it's
really
like,
great.
It's just going to take a long time to like do the prep work.
Hey man, AI.
There's AI. There's another AI job. Like, yes, guy. But it's also, that's what I'm interested in too. It's like I want an AI program that's going to, I'm sure there's already one that links, like say you have, you know, I got 12 tracks I'm going to perform. I got 12 pieces of B-roll. Each, when I hit my playlist, they know, the computer knows that this first track is going to match up with this first B-roll.
Yeah, you can train it.
Triggers as you're playing off the computer or whatever device you're using, it triggers your projector too. So
yeah,
if I
it's
just
like a whole
hit a playlist,
yeah, and then it just does it
all.
That'd be really cool. That'd be really cool.
Itself. So I'm all for that assistance.
Yeah, I'd be down to help you even figure some of those stuff out because like I'm an AV nerd. I went to after I mean we're wrapping up, so like I don't want to go too far into the story, but I was working corporate AV for like a whole while. Like I was telling you, like I was doing freelance, but then I got a corporate position as a coordinator. I learned so much.
That, right?
Encore.
Yeah, I was working for Invisible Sky.
Yep, yeah. And there's Gig Guys and Soul Power.
Gig Guys,
yeah, and there's like Mighty Mouse,
for,
FMAV, Fresh Corn.
Yeah.
It's the list is long.
Yeah.
Toronto. So that's why I quit my job too, because I had so much gear.
Yeah.
Now I do my own AV shows.
Yeah.
Actually, on the 25th, there's this beat battle that I'm actually supplying the stage, the lights, the audio for. It's a Beat Kids beat battle at It's Okay Studios.
Second.
Yeah, the 25th.
Yeah.
And it's just a bunch of producers. If you're a producer, you definitely want to go there because you can network. One girl was at the last one. Like she produced with Travis Scott, Drake, and
Slang Hugh, my last guest. He's him and his buddies have been doing beat nights too.
That's cool.
Like producers, like featuring producers.
I gotta reach out to him because I'm trying to build have these tiny little 10, 20 person communities. I'm trying to like do a melting pot of a scene in Toronto, you know?
Gold Era Music.
Okay, I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, 3 guys.
I gotta reach out.
But they're my buddies from like 20 years ago.
Oh wow, so you know them.
So him and I we used to go. This is how like a buddy of mine, Mamoon, he's made his own films too, and so he was managing for Omar or Slang Hugh. I knew Omar like 20 while I was doing the news, like 2002. We used to do promos for Riley's. Riley's used to be across the street from Sam the Record Man.
Oh, okay.
And it was a hip hop bar.
Right.
And basically, this is when smoking was still
legal. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So Mamoon
way to date it,
and
I guess.
me, we would do these promos each week they would have a big release. Like every Tuesday was new release albums.
Cool.
So say if Common was coming or Talib or somebody was coming, they do a press run in Toronto.
That's sick.
And they would hold it at Riley's. The actual artist wouldn't be there, but it was like a press run for them, and we would do these promos.
Cool.
Each week we would shoot them, interview people,
Riley's.
catch the scene, package them and give them out. And we used to hang out at Ryerson all the time, do all this stuff, and we started forming this little clique together where we're all like, me and my buddy was doing something, him and the manager, it's like we all tried to make a community. And it was just like, that was the same time everything was blowing up for Toronto. It was like Carnell
for sure
did the big song with Akon.
Yeah,
like,
that was the big one.
Chaos was big.
Yeah, Kanon came out after.
Came out, and it was
the
like
Weekend, Justin Bieber.
Big Black Lincoln were doing big things, and like
Maestro Fresh West too.
Yeah, it was big, and so I was into it early, and I was just immersed around it, like him and my buddy was rapping, so it's like by the time I got to do my own thing, it was like I soaked up so much of the scene.
Yeah.
And then also being like around production and having so many friends in production, and I just got lucky out of the gate that I met Dave, and I made Ben's last album with Dave,
Yeah, to really try to be poignant, maybe put a ribbon on this.
Yeah, let's wrap this up.
I think throughout civilization, storytelling, narrative, music, whatever, congregations, whether it's church or a tribal thing or a drum circle, have been such a pillar of like movements of change in the societies when there's injustices or capitalism or the powers that be are going against the people. It's only through through congregations, through scenes, through groups, through community, that change happens. And 90% of people I speak to are unhappy with the way things are being run, the way things are happening. There's just a million things to complain about, right? Yeah. I think that as creatives, if you're listening to this is for me in the future too. And like just a message I think in general that is really good to promote is the creativity in the communities needs to be encouraged. Yes. Like more showcases where it's not just people doing karaoke over their songs. Just more networking, more building these scenes where so many artists are meeting and like just creating, like what happened to bands.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's really important to cultivate these spaces and hold space for people to meet and people to feel like they can be expressive or they can show their music. And just like, I guess I'm encouraging people to go to more shows. If you're going to invest in yourself, it's easy to buy a nice pair of shoes or a sick jacket or maybe, like something flashy. But if you go to these places where you meet people and there's like the actual, even if it's like DJ shows, raves, just like follow your interest. I want to encourage that more. I think through these podcasts, through these communities, through these scenes, this is the only way that we'll build platforms that aren't controlled by the things that keep us in these boxes, So if you want a revolution to change, you just got to like start small, start with your community and start meeting people. This is consistency and contacts. Like that's it. It's facilitating change towards financial and creative freedom.
You heard it from the man. Listen. Stay consistent, folks. Stay consistent. That's what it's all about. Yeah. And community, I think, to see it kind of, puts that all together. And it's important. It's like you don't get anywhere without a team and without a good community. And man, trust, faith. You're part of my community. Hey, I'm happy to, man. It's incredible to reconnect with you. Yeah. Wow, what a enlightening conversation. It got my gears thinking about, how, because like we need to use AI. We gotta we gotta move with the times and keep creating. I agree. Yeah. All right, bro. I'm glad you're here. Likewise. Thanks for having me. Peace. All right. Good night, folks.